All right, well, we're really going to test Dash's ability to dash on over to the desk here from over on the couches. And I know personally, I love listening to the Civ jingles, and it's a lot of difficulty to determine what civilization you are when you load into the game and you hear that Civ jingle if you're going random Civ. So here, Dash is dashing away from me. So we're going to have Hearttt and ACCM coming up next. And, oh, there he is. Welcome, Dash. And here we have the Civ draft in front of us. So Game 1 will be on and closed. Then ACCM's home maps will be Bedouins and Tide Pool. And Heartt's maps will be a Bypass and a Dry River. And here he is.
Woo! Catching my breath.
Did you have a good dash?
Oh, I had a lovely dash. Now I've got the blood flowing. I'm energized. I'm ready for another great series. I think the two series we've had so far today have absolutely delivered, and I'm hoping the same here for ACCM versus Hearttt.
And you know, this is going to be ACCM's really first chance to show what he's brought to this tournament. I think the first matchup against Hera, kind of lopsided, but Hera does that to people. Second matchup, then Dogao. ACCM pretty heavy favorite there, and he showed why.
I think particularly considering ACCM's most recent tournament performance, right? A lot of people have been hoping and expecting to see a little bit more out of him. This would be the moment for him to turn things on, keep himself very much alive in the standings, and working towards that playoff positioning for Hearttt as well. The triple T Hearttt. I love it.
Yeah, the more T's, the better.
The more T's, the better.
Although
you know
I have to say, we have our slippers in the studio. T90 labeled his with a T, and it was very confusing for me.
Yeah,
I also labeled mine with
that's
a T.
a big blunder. There's a huge error on his part. Either way, what do you make of this draft, if anything?
I'm very surprised that Georgians made it through, because Georgians have been an insane Civ pick that have constantly been banned, and I'm honestly waiting to see what ACCM's going to use them for.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Of course, the first pick on the other side, the Malay, that has been quite a constant in this tournament, I would say, especially anytime you see a map like Tide Pool could easily go that direction. I'm happy to see Dry River, though, in the pool as well. A map we haven't seen a ton of at this tournament. I like to see that diversity overall.
Yeah, and I'm a bit surprised maybe to see both Malay and Dravidians as the first two picks from Hearttt. If he's really prioritizing that water map in Tide Pool, maybe using Dravidians there and thinking Malay could belong on Bypass or maybe on some other map.
Yeah, okay, I'm just still catching up with the rest of it. Obviously, Turks and Bohemians is interesting, right? Because on Bypass, both would be completely viable. We've seen multiple players take them to that map as it stands.
And Portuguese as well.
And Portuguese, all the gunpowder, exactly.
I guess he doesn't want to face gunpowder. Maybe some of those are defensive picks deciding, you know what, I don't want to see Hearttt play these civs on this map. I'll just take him for myself.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, with all that said, we are going to kick things off on Enclosed. An interesting map because obviously provides a lot of safety to your primary eco, right? We're thinking your wood and your farming economy, usually a lot of focus around those rarer resources, moving out towards the berries, the stone, and the gold. So any predictions here as to what we'll see, what might suit these players' styles going particularly into that map?
This could be a good map to use Georgians for ACCM or even Romans. That late-game cav-focused Civ composition can be a really strong one on this map with how wide open it is. The middle is enclosed, as the map would tell you.
Right.
And you have to go so far around the outside to be able to attack your opponents. The mobility and late-game ability to spam cavalry is really important.
Not just that, obviously we saw Romans put to great use earlier in the previous set. Tato scaling up into those very much feared scorpions in the late game. And again, if you ACCM has dragged games out on any map, let alone enclosed, right? And so that's maybe he's looking, as you say, for an opportunity to just scale into the late and ultimately have the better post-imp Civ at his disposal.
And I'm very curious about Heartt's picks of Saracens and Berbers, both very camel-heavy civs, that he might think to use them on enclosed to counter some of those cav civs that ACCM has picked.
Right, some of those cav civs that ACCM has, but not a ton of cav civs, right? So there's also a question of, is that an over-index into camel civs, when again you're staring down the likes of 3 different gunpowder civilizations, none of which are going to go heavy into cav, right? Maybe Portuguese of all of them. But yeah, Georgians, Romans, maybe a little bit. Malians, of course, can also go for camels themselves.
Right, they can always go for Farimba, for camels and cavalier, do a lot of raiding around the outsides. And also Malians, a good water civ for the early game. And could be an option for Tide Pool as well, although they do fall off a bit in the late game, lacking both a Galleon upgrade and Bracer. But still, maybe something with Geppetto Warriors could be viable on that map.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see something like Italians on Tide Pool, Dravidians maybe on Bedouins. I'm trying to figure out what's going over to Bedouins there.
Yeah, better wins that nomad start.
Right.
So Italians would be great, I think, if it were more of a traditional nomad map where they could do the dock. And same thing with Dravidians, where you really want to build that dock to get the pop space. I feel like that Dravidians pick pretty much has to be used on Tidepool now.
Has to be used on Tidepool. So then Melee gets pushed elsewhere.
Melee might be interesting for better wins.
Okay, I like that. Well, especially actually as you say that, with the Nomad start, sometimes something like a really cheeky, quick feudal, depending on the proximity of the TCs, right? Obviously, a lot is going to be determined by where ultimately the positions and the scouting of each player on that map.
Right, and we saw that in Heartt's game against Leary, where that faster feudal trapping a few villagers by that mill basically decided the game.
Oh my goodness, yeah, that was painful to watch because it was happening almost in slow motion, right?
It was, and you could see it. You could see how Leary didn't want to run the vills because they were so far away, but it was kind of the only option. Once he got walled in, it just felt like that decided the game.
Yeah, ended up being a disastrous decision at that, while of course Leary would still manage to take the series. Stylistically, how do you feel about how these players match up? Do you feel like either one has the edge necessarily?
Stylistically, I feel like they're very different. ACCM, they call him the chef. He always cooks up new strategies, and I'm excited to see if he has anything saved for this round. Hearttt, as we saw against Leary, a very meta type of player who can excel there, but maybe isn't quite at the same level as Hera and Leary are.
So execution-based for him, right?
Very
because,
much so.
There's going to be less surprise in terms of his approaches and strategies. But then, of course, I don't know. If you're going up against the chef, somebody who can start throwing in some funky ingredients, right? Whipping up different spices, playing with different combinations. Sometimes then I really worry about someone who gets almost too locked into an idea, right? Becomes rigid in their approach to the game.
Right. You can see some of ACCM's creativity expressed in that sweater he's wearing. We just have the sleeve on this image behind
That's actually such a great point.
He is such an amazing Christmas sweater he's wearing right now. He's in the holiday spirit, and we're ready to get into this game.
Gotta love it. A happy-go-lucky guy. We'll see if he can keep up the cheer as we dive into game number 1 here between Hearttt and ACCM. Of course, we already know that we're going to enclose. When it comes to the civilizations, I see Berbers versus Portuguese.
Ooh. All right, so Camel Archers versus Organ Guns as the unique units. Much more mobility for the Berbers here, but when you get to the late game, remember the Portuguese do have that gold savings on their Cavalier, so they can get a lot of Cavaliers out to different parts of the map.
Yeah, immediately I'm thinking about how ACCM wants to drag this out, maybe wall up one side and concentrate all of the military, engagements to another side, making great use of that unique unit, massing the organ guns and absolutely murking waves of cheap knights that are flooding forward. Now, of course, Hearttt is going to have a lot of options, I think, in the Castle Age, making use not just of the mobility, but the cheapness of those stable units. And maybe if he gets enough of an edge there, he can end the game before the organ guns become too much of a problem.
Right, and I'm really interested in seeing how Hearttt plays with Camel Archers on this map. The gunpowder usually has a weakness to those archer units, and Camel Archers, we've seen them so many times over the years, just such a powerful, unique unit that once you get a good mass of them, you can keep them alive. Maybe earlier in the day, we saw that matchup on Bypass where Dogao kind of ran into the Hussite wagons. We're not going to see that same block against the Camel Archers that we saw in that matchup.
Alrighty, already on the way up to the Feudal Age is Hearttt. We've got Loom on the way here for ACCM and a Feudal Age click to follow. Obviously, you have the ability to push in all of these deer for both players because of the generation of the map. There's no surprise as to where your opponent's TC is going to be and even where their resources will be. You largely know at the end of the day that the gold, the stone, and the berries are going to be concentrated just outside that stone ring, which is a reminder to viewers you cannot build on, and so does create a little bit of difficulty when it comes to full walling. You can get these house walls up and at least protect that main eco, but it becomes all about dancing around those more rare resources.
Exactly. Your starting houses on this 9-villager start do begin on the outside of your base, so you can start to build a wall using them, but can't go directly from the forest in the middle all the way to the edge of the map because you can't build directly on top of that rock.
All right, both players take different paths for their scouts to get to the other side and begin the snooping process. What is my opponent up to? And we can go ahead and see the barracks as well coming down for each player just in time for the Feudal Age to arrive.
And pretty common for both these saves to go for a scouts opening. I don't see either player moving out to gold yet, so that's probably what they're going to go for.
So scouts and spears. Don't think anyone's, like you say, going to be surprised by the military choice of these players, but we'll get that confirmation. I do like to see Loom coming in now for Hearttt, though, as he neglected to get that before clicking up.
And ACCM getting that confirmation as well, seeing the stable, and a bit greedy to go up without doing the loom, but you're pretty safe on enclosed. You can keep track of where your opponent's scout is. You'll have that line of sight from your houses, so you can keep your villagers safe and not push them too far forward where the scout might snipe them off.
Alrighty, eco upgrades coming in. The stable's going up with 2 vills apiece, making that happen. And as soon as they are up, we see scouts in the queue. I like to see the horse collar as well. If you can squeeze that in, could be very beneficial in the long run in terms of saving you having to replant those farms.
Right. It's a trade-off these days when you're going up so fast because sometimes you want to push those spears out of your barracks early on, and we see that from ACCM already has his first spear out a bit faster than Hearttt does.
Mm-hmm.
Now he has to find a way to use that spear advantage to make up for not having horse collar.
All right. Waiting for the militaries to move out. Once again, we do see the scouts starting to group up here for Hearttt. So it does look like with that slightly faster feudal time and the first and second and third scouts out onto the field that much quicker, that he will be the one on offense. Although, as I say that, I also see ACCM taking his original route. So who can defend against the scouts better? Walls obviously play a big part in that. It might just be a transition towards Castle Age from here, as both players realize they can't find too much damage and haven't moved to gold just yet.
Right, and the important part will be securing that gold and seeing whether either player decides to go for an archer transition. Against the scouts, you can small wall your resources and keep your vills safe, but the archer transition does slow down your Castle Age timing and might not necessarily be the army composition you want to go for, especially if maybe you're Hearttt and you're thinking of you wanting to find stone and find those unique units.
Oh, there we have the archery range there for ACCM, and a good wall up on the villager just to make sure that it can't be denied. Spear looking to chase, definitely looking for over forages as well on each player.
Yeah, the fun part about the orange bushes there is that the graphics actually change as you forage from them, so you can keep a closer eye on it.
Thank goodness. Yeah, thank goodness. Now on the other side, it doesn't look like ACCM's found any damage as well, so just a lot of dancing by both of our players as they move up to 4 and 5 scouts apiece. More spears, though, produced here for ACCM. Hearttt has elected to just stay on the 1, so slightly greedier, but it means more wood available to plant those farms and keep the food eco rolling.
And he's doing that all with the horse collar, as you mentioned.
Right, absolutely. And so walls up around the very bushes for both players. Still, oh, here we go. Love that vodka. Thank you so much for showing us that ACCM is moving on to gold first between these two players, and the first kill of the game has gone through.
All right, he picks off that spear. It's always a big decision of whether or not you want to jump those spears because you're sacrificing so much scout HP. And here we see ACCM scouts really dancing around there, trying to avoid taking any pokes.
Yep, successfully doing so. Again, no one's worse for the wear. It's 1-to-1 in the KD. I'd say the big thing right now is just that ACCM has already moved on to gold and is beginning to produce archers.
Yeah, and we see the archery range from Hearttt, but he's just going to go skirmishers. So different compositions here, Scout Archer versus Scout Skirmisher. In the long run, usually you think that Scout Archer can scale a bit better. The archers can be used to kill villagers, will be more effective at damaging the scouts. But if you're just going to go for a small number of units and then try to transition, you can just try to aggressively jump on the archers with the skirmishers. Or if you're going to play very defensive, you don't have to move your skirmishers out into the open where the scouts are going to be able to surround them and get the jump on them.
Especially in low numbers, like you said, right? It's very, or much easier, rather, for a few archers and a spearman, per se, to defend against scouts than it would be for a few skirmishers and a spearman. And so ACCM, with those two archers in tow, is going to start to move forward. Also getting bloodlines, but does take a couple of hits there. Not going to be too happy about that, to lose the HP while not losing any scout lives.
Yeah, and you always want to try to time your fight so that you're just getting bloodlines as you're engaging, so your opponent isn't going to check the upgrade before the fight. But here, Heartt's just going to run back and not going to give that fight to ACCM.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see if he's managed to squeeze fletching in. Obviously needs a little bit more food to make that happen. Does have the gold necessary to do so, but fletching is really what's going to make those archers a threat against villagers especially.
Especially, right? Because Loom does give them a bit of pierce armor, so fletching helps overcome that armor.
Okay, one little snipe there on the scout for Hearttt. Going to be happy to have found that. Good skirmisher numbers as well, I think, in comparison to the amount of spears and archers. And immediately ACCM recognizes it, and he says, I can't be here anymore.
No, those archers running right into the spears, and that's exactly what Hearttt wanted.
Wow.
He'll jump the spears with the scouts. He didn't even need to invest into bloodlines here. He cleans everything, and that was a beautiful fight.
Yeah, that's a path you didn't want to take, and an awesome find here for Hearttt. I feel like here, now he's got full permission, moves a couple villagers on to gold, feels like he's wrestled some control. He now gets to apply the pressure here while sorting out the eco and making his way towards the castle age. Just a few more villagers on farms, but forging now for ACCM. So more investment into those upgrades. Already has bloodlines, I'll remind everybody.
Yeah, and those skirms, Heartt's able to get those numbers because they do train faster than the archers, and once again, he just wants to jump the archers and clear the archers and spears. He's not really as concerned about taking damage from the scouts as he is about clearing the army.
Okay, so the skirm's getting caught out just a little bit. It's a 1-for-1 trade, a skirm for a spear, pulling the scouts back. Heartt is going for, focuses the spear down, which he should. Now the skirmishers are used to being microed against those archers. But the scout numbers with the upgrades, especially its forging and bloodlines, it ends up being a huge clear up here for ACCM.
Yeah, Heartt did as well as he could to focus those spears, but just didn't have the bloodlines or the HP on the scouts to win that fight.
Well, now the question is, does Heartt actually feel safe enough at home, or does he have to restart production? And no, the answer is he doesn't feel safe enough, so it's a tower at the very least.
Okay, that can definitely slow down your castle age timing and slow down your TCs, since now you have to spend that stone. You're not going to be able to sell it, and you're not going to be able to spend it directly on the TCs without mining more or buying more.
Yeah, and I think ACCM both smells blood in the water, but also smells his advantage, drops a market of his own back at home, so he could do what you were suggesting. He could go ahead and use the opportunity to sell that 200 stone, accelerate his castle age timing. While behind in food right now, and it looks like Heartt is still trying to squeeze it in, is already going for a second stable.
Ooh, and a second stable, looks like his resources are about, and he's able to pick up to the castle age. ACCM won't be too far behind. You know, it's always interesting on this map if you go for that 2 stable investment in feudal and really try to pump out the scouts, but both players here are going to try to go up to the castle age. Okay,
well, that tower is going to provide great defensive cover, especially over the gold. I like the wall up. Kind of the compactness here of Heartt's base should make sure, or should rather guarantee that he doesn't take too much more damage. Good house again here by the villager, trying to get that market up.
The spears are so important now for keeping those scouts away from the skirms. Heartt's doing what he probably should have been doing with the skirms early on, keeping them in his base, using the tower and just the structure of his base to keep them safe. When he moved forward, he thought, you know what, I cleaned the army, maybe I can get greedy and get some kills with the scouts and the skirms, but they just backfired and he lost everything.
I mean, I get it, though. Logically, it makes sense. I just cleaned up 5 military units to 0. It feels like I should have that initiative, but it didn't respect the upgrades, right? Bloodlines was already in at that time. Obviously, Forging came in just as the fight began. That went bad for him on the return. But that's how small decisions can make big differences in this game. Either way, both players haven't lost a single eco unit. The overall KD is relatively similar, and the castle age timings are 8 seconds apart.
And the res collected are only 200 resources different. This is a very close game right now.
An extraordinarily close game, but we see, okay, another upgrade coming in. 15 seconds until that first armor upgrade for the scouts. Finally, bloodlines coming in on the other side. Looking to see what the answer will be. Obviously, I expect with double stable, Berber's going to go straight into knights. Let's see them queued up. That's 2. And ACCM decides, you know what? I'm second to the castle age. He's closer to his production buildings. Maybe it's time for me to back off, wait till I get a couple upgrades of my own, and then we can re-engage.
And of course, the Berbers do have access to camels, so if Heartt sees ACCM going very heavy into the knights, he can switch to camel production. Right now, you start with the knights because you're thinking, okay, he might be going archers. I want to have a unit that can fight the archers, and it's also a bit better at raiding if you're able to get through. Of course, you can't wall your base fully, so getting under the TCs, the knights are a bit stronger at killing vills.
Yeah, I like seeing the second armor upgrade coming in for Heartt here, particularly considering that the crossbow upgrade was invested in. Both players also stretching out to that second TC, so it's not going to be any kind of all-in for either player. Definitely still keeping in mind that they want to expand their ecos. Monks already being thought about as well. We're going to have quite the diverse army compositions between these players.
And so it looks like it's just going to be a classic knight crossbow versus knight skirm matchup, where again, it's can you micro the skirms to kill the crossbows? Can you keep the skirms safe from the knights?
Well, what do you think? Because this is what we were talking about before, where perhaps this is where the Berber player really has to take advantage of the cheaper producing stable units and actually garner some advantage. And while you're matched in TCs and you're the one whose walls are being knocked on, I'm a little concerned that it hasn't started the way that Heartt was hoping.
Oh, remember, he always does have those camels as the option if he feels like he's getting overwhelmed by the knights. And the crossbow numbers for ACCM aren't too large yet. And the challenge for ACCM, his archery range is at home. Enclosed is such a long distance to walk around. He needs to get crossbows forward if he ever does see camels.
Yeah, has about 8 of them forward at the moment, still producing out of that one archery range and sending them forward in trickles. That's where I'm concerned when I see a pack of red over there that perhaps we're going to see some reinforcements sniped. We've got the patrol from the Knights. Will ACCM recognize it? Again, just making quick work of these houses, making sure that he makes some progress with his forward position.
Your Heartt's thinking about jumping. He wants to surround and maybe go for the crossbows first. They're a bit squishier than the Knights, and he's going to take a decent start to that fight.
Yeah. +2 on the Knights. It almost feels like we've been here before, right? ACCM on the retreat and Heartt trying to jump onto the ranged units. But all of that said, it's essentially an entirely Knight army against a combo of crossbows and Knights. It's all about the micro, and it's all about the focus on the proper units. It's still feudal age skirms with no upgrades that are also aiding our red player. And it looks like ACCM, keeping his crossbows alive, will ultimately push Heartt back.
I don't think that was the worst fight for Heartt, though, because his spears were still cleaning some of the feudal age scouts there for ACCM. But it's just so important that ACCM keeps that crossbow mass alive to prevent that camel switch.
I think one of the other things that Heartt can be happy about, there is a hole. That's a hole.
There is a hole.
That's a hole.
That is a hole.
I don't know if it's going to be too relevant because, of course, you'd have to be diving underneath the TC. I think Heartt will be very happy to bring a lot of those.
From the monks right,
this is an opportunity to dive, and Heartt's looking to take it. ACCM reacts quickly, though, pulls his knights back in defense. And so not too much lost in that moment. I'm looking at that monk and how much value it's going to get from healing, though, over the course of all of this.
Yep, and Heartt, when he just jumped through, he didn't lose a single knight. He can heal them all up and just trade a bit of HP that he'll get back for some crossbows.
Exactly. Now 2 monks onto the field, also investing into forging on top of all of this. So it's full investment into the knight play. We even saw a 3rd stable going off, or up, rather, to the left-hand side. Right-hand side, rather. I know my directions.
The directions are hard sometimes. Trust me, I'm T-West.
I'm back here holding up my fingers in the L shape to get it right.
And we have another jump right here. And the crossbow's going forward. They're trying to snipe the monks, but that's going to let the knights jump on top of them. And they're not quite getting the monks. They get one. They get the second on that last shot.
Salvaged it a little bit there by taking out 2 monks in the end. Still looking for 1 conversion is Heartt. And look at this. It's just a knight v knight battle, but that's not the position I want to be in as the Portuguese player.
Well, it's tricky because both of these civs have discounts on their knights, just the Berbers feel a bit cheaper.
Yeah, exactly, right? You've got a gold discount on Portuguese, but you got an overall discount over there on the Berbers. And like you said, there's the camels.
As soon as the crossbows are gone, here come the camels.
Yeah, you love to see it, actually. This is the great understanding, I think, that Heartt has around the meta, right? And right now, actually, stylistically, I don't think ACCM's thrown anything at him to really pull him out of what his civ wants to do.
Right, this feels like a very meta game, and right now we see Heartt even taking advantage of, as he's pushing ACCM's army back across the map, he can send that monk forward and start grabbing those relics.
Yeah, looking to pick up relics. Now ACCM is investing into more economy. We do have a 3rd TC going up at home, and now Heartt almost sensing it as well. It's his opportunity to reach out, expand a little bit further, get a TC on this stone over here. I also love the investment of Town Watch at this point. It's such a cheap upgrade at this point in the game to protect yourself.
Yeah, and right now, resources collected almost exactly the same, 18.3 to 18.4k. Only difference here, we have about a 5 or 6 villager lead. We've had that for Heartt, and he's just now finally doing Bowsaw. He hasn't had that upgrade for a long time, and it's something some players prioritize that, do that right away. Other players don't put as much of an emphasis on it. I feel like old school players tend to prioritize it a lot more.
Yeah, I've yet to hear a convincing argument, honestly, one way or the other, because here's what I would say. Look at the resources collected. They're identical, right? Yeah. So you can't really tell me that one player benefited, from not getting it early or by getting it early, So either way, this would be a good find here.
TC.
An easy denial here unless the walls come up, and they won't. So Heartt finds it, does deny it. Now, of course, it's only 1 villager life lost, and we'll delete that TC and maybe look to replace it in a safer area in just a bit's time, unless we can manage to push this back. It is good knight numbers, and we do have some crossbows to help out. So I think in the end, Heartt is going to have to concede the space and let that TC go up.
Yeah, and here we are again with that camel transition. Now that ACCM is closer to home with the crossbows, it's easier for him to deal with the camels.
Husbandry coming in as well. I like to see that. Just maybe an opportunity to outmaneuver and outposition your opponent.
Oh, you could get trapped
Oh,
there.
that's a trap if I've ever seen one. Okay, Hearttt realizes it just in that moment, probably with a click and some auto-pathing, ends up saving him.
Oh, the danger of one tree against the edge of the map.
It really can. It could get you. It could get you. Okay, a 4th TC for Hearttt as well, and more investment into eco upgrades. It looks like we are going to the late game.
Looks like we are, and no, that's common for enclosed. You're so far apart, it's really hard, even with these large armies, to get damage. We have a 1-0 eco KD so far.
Okay, but here's the thing. ACCM chasing this entire army back here on the right-hand side of the map. Take a look at the left-hand side of the map. Hearttt is going to make use of distraction tactics. He's coming in with a group of knights. What a beautiful pip-up we have here on the other side. Monks, though, in defense, looking for 1 or 2 conversions. I see 2 coming through, but the monks will go down in the end. We've got engagements on 2 parts of the map here, T-West.
It feels like the same thing. Monks and knights on both sides. On the left, it feels like Hearttt has the numbers advantage, but ACCM will have the reinforcements. On the right, is Hearttt clearing this?
I think Heartt's winning on both sides of the map right now. It's camels into knights and not enough crossbows in the end, and so it's an absolute cleanup back at home. He still has knights running amok in his opponent's base. This is looking very good for Hearttt all of a sudden.
All of a sudden, it looks like now, look at that villager count. It's a 12 villager lead for Hearttt. Here, ACCM does have that hand credit advantage, but Heartt's eco, we can see it in the res collected. All of a sudden, he's starting to climb, starting to get closer to 1K more res collected, and that's going to be a faster imp timing, more army, and with how cheap the army is, that eco advantage is now going to start just to explode in numbers.
I was going to say, eco advantage is nice. I'd say double the military count right now feels even better.
Absolutely. And remember, ACCM, he doesn't have that camel option. He doesn't have that counter unit to the knights he can just make at home. He can go monks, he can maybe go pikemen, but that's about it.
Yeah, you're only sitting on 1 barracks at the moment. He's investing into another stable, I see, which goes directly against what we're talking about right now. But maybe he just feels like he needs overwhelming numbers. Of course, still looking to produce some monks. He's got 3 in the queue, but we're diving underneath the TC. Now, this is a risky move here from Hearttt. You are throwing away a bit of your advantage by taking maybe an ill-advised trade underneath the fire of those TCs, but he does pick up a few more villager kills at 7-0 in the eco KD.
And as you mentioned those TCs, you have to pay attention to ACCM. Since he was going crossbows, he already had Balkan arrow on the TCs. So
right.
He's doing extra damage to the knights while they're standing under there.
And just like that, we see the army counts equalize. But again, Hearttt is happy to sit in equal army count, given the advantage he's gotten himself and the fact that he's nearly clicking up to the Imperial Age.
Yep, he's just now finishing handcart. He's up to imp. He has about a 20 vil lead, and we've seen some imp TCs not work out so far today.
And now I
think he's safe,
I'm gonna
regardless of which TC.
that was a rough one in the Viper game. I gotta say, this game I think is playing out exactly how we expected. Berber player coming out of the castle edge with a lead. Right now the question is that lead big enough that Hearttt can close the game before ACCM manages to defend and extend and extend?
And remember, it's closing the game against ACCM,
yeah.
A player who's going to play on even after the game is closed.
Exactly right. Exactly right. We do see Iron Casting coming in as well, though, just continuing to add power to those cavalry units, diving in onto the monks here. 1 conversion comes through, 2 conversions come through, and the monks will all go down. Now we look to see how the trade happens underneath the fire of the TC. I see more red than I see blue, and that's not a good sign when you're in the blue base.
Oh, it's looking like ACCM's sweater there, more red than blue.
Very much. He wore the wrong sweater today.
Oh, he did.
That's what we're learning.
Colors.
He wore the wrong sweater. All right, minute and 20 seconds away from the Imperial Age. Now ACCM is going to take his stab at a raid, diving underneath this TC. Quick reaction, though, here from Hearttt. Takes the hill.
There. He has the monks.
Oh, you got to love it. He doesn't get surprised by it too much. Yes, it's a little bit of idle time force, but this is a great time, for him to be back at home defending.
Try to run off the edge of the map.
Waiting for Imperial Age to come in. Lots of wood at his disposal. A little bit of gold. Definitely looking for him to regroup some of his military units, concentrate them again with Imperial Age upgrades, and maybe look for that killing blow.
Yep, and this is the one risky part for Hearttt. Since he is clicking up to imp, he's spending those resources on that technology and not on his army. So he has to fall back and just wait until he gets imp, gets that even bigger discount now that he will be an imp, and then get the knight numbers back up.
A couple good finds there for ACCM. Lowering those knight numbers. Of course, we see camels back in the queue here for Hearttt as he realizes it's still going to be knights that I'm fighting up against.
Look at all those stables.
Imp comes in. Not a single upgrade clicked yet. There it is. The first one it's going to be the attack upgrade of all things. Either way, it gives him more of an advantage, and there's Cavalier to follow. So a minute on the clock until that comes through. You see ACCM just trying to make a mess of his opponent's eco at this point. It's about buying time. It's about buying time, not even close to the resources yet to click up to the Imperial Age. Taking fights with less numbers, not the way you want to do it. And it's looking pretty disastrous at the moment, I would have to say, here for ACCM.
Looks like Hearttt has cleaned all this up, and he's getting a castle foundation placed pretty far forward, not directly on ACCM's face, but he's going to start securing those extra resources, those extra golds around the edge of the map.
Okay, and ACCM at this point now learning, or rather realizing that Pikeman is going to be a necessary upgrade for him to have any chance in this game. 8 seconds until Cavalier comes in, 20 seconds until that blast furnace completes. I don't know if you want to be this forward on the map, but of course you feel like you have to do something because you don't want to be defending at home.
And you feel like you're behind. I mean, look at Heartt's resources now. He could practically go imp again. ACCM still struggling, stuck in the castle age.
Yeah, now he was able to deny that castle, at least for the time being, although, oh my goodness, is that a reroute of the villagers along the edge of the map? It looks like they get found.
On the edge of the map, too. I think if they're going that way. Oh, actually, that's actually really smart. The Cavaliers are going to take any units there and run them away so the Vills can move forward.
Yeah, very nice, and maybe even get a little bit of a raid going. Now ACCM in full retreat mode as the Cavalier are on the chase, and there we have the train of villagers now feeling permission to come forward. Pikemen do arrive to the fight, so we can't be too disrespectful of that. Need to make sure that we still have our numbers up, but it's 13 Cavalier in the queue with 32 on the field, and the raiding has begun.
Yeah, as Heartt's taking an equal fight over here, he's getting the raids in on the other side of the map. You can see those red dots on the mini-map just going forward as he's getting the castle up, winning a fight, and raiding all at the same time.
This is phenomenal play out of Hearttt, but it's exactly what we expect, right? That he would go with a very rigid, expected strategy, but that he would play it to near perfection, right?
Oh, the quick walls on the castle.
There you have it. Execution.
The gate, the house, another gate, and he brings his army up. Wonderful.
Incredibly tough position for ACCM to play out at this point. Now we have plate barding armor on the way, 15 seconds from completion. Once the castle's up, then we can have siege to support the push. We need to get those trebuchets onto the field to actually close this game out. But now we have a 40 eco lead, double the military still, but ACCM fights on.
Yep, and as we get that castle, we also have the option for camel archers in case we ever need to make a transition if you start seeing a lot of pikemen.
Oh my goodness, one Cavalier in the wood line. One Cavalier in the wood line with 11 kills at this point.
Well, this is exactly where Hearttt
22 kills between them.
Well, we've seen that so many times this tournament. You get 1 or 2 Cav units into your opponent's eco, and they just don't notice it. They don't notice it, and all of a sudden, 20 Vills go down, 30 Vills go down.
Yeah, but again, it also speaks to the pressure of the moment here for ACCM. Again, already having been felt like he was on the back foot, getting beat to the Imperial Age, and having to go for some kind of an all-out play in Castle. And with that army cleaned up, I think it makes sense that this is the point where ACCM calls it. Hearttt will move up to 1-0 in the series.
And I think that went pretty much perfectly for Hearttt. Maybe the only thing that didn't work out was that one fight with the skirmishers in the feudal age.
Yep. And you know what? If losing 6 skirmishers is really all that is your worst engagement,
you're happy with
I think you'd be pretty happy with yourself and the game. So a hot start here for Hearttt, but still, plenty of room for ACCM to strike back, and that is so core to ACCM's unbreakable mentality.
Yeah, and what do you think mentally, if you're Hearttt? You know Enclosed can be a map that can drag out and drag out and drag out, and you're against ACCM. Do you think it feels good just to get that map out of the way?
I think you are very pleased that you were able to end it in that amount of time and in that fashion, right? Where, again, you played exactly to what your Civ wanted to do. You got the lead in Castle and ended the game early imp, right? We got the Castle up, but there was no Treb produced even. You were able to end that. You ended that game without Siege against ACCM. I'd write home about that.
Yeah, and I really like the Civ pick. Berbers, towards the end of his draft, after he'd seen all those Cav Civs, we talked about that at the start, Berbers and Saracens as counters to those Civs.
All right, well, with the score standing at 1-0, we're going to take a quick moment to catch our breath, rest, and retool. We're going to go to commercial break. When we come back, we dive into game number 2.
And now, a word from our partners.
Eek! A mouse! A mouse!
What is it, dear? Why you rage? Oh, honey. That's no ordinary mouse. It's the Reaper 250. With this mouse in your household, you never have to be scared again.
Yes, The U-Rage Reaper 250, featuring DPI control, advanced ergonomics, RGB lighting, and customizable buttons, is the perfect addition to every competitive household. Why U-Rage? It's all good. Get yours on Mueller.de.
Well, welcome back to the Noble Apartment Cup in game number 2 between Hearttt and ACCM. Neither one of them is raging after that, I don't think. ACCM might be disappointed to have not gotten the first map win, but I don't think it happened in a way that's necessarily frustrating.
I don't think he could rage in that sweater. He's just so
That's
so
true.
much Christmas cheer.
That's true.
He's going to collect himself, and he's not going to give up. He is not a player who's going to give up after one game. He's going to keep fighting.
All right, let's think about, though, how ACCM responds, right? What is the answer? Because I think that where you do start to worry is if you go down 0-2 and you're having to mount a reverse sweep. All of a sudden, that feels like a much more difficult mountain to climb.
Exactly. So if we can pull up the draft maybe one more time, and we'll look at what maps he has available, we'll see what he could do to maybe start climbing his way back into the series.
Right.
Keep his spirits up against Hearttt.
I know for sure one of his own maps, if I recall correctly, was Tide Pools. So maybe we go there. Of course, I'm still even just kind of stuck on his Civ draft with the 3 gunpowder civilizations.
Well, he's used one of them already.
Yes.
And I think key for him is that he avoided having a heavy camel civ against the Georgians. He still has his very first pick in the Georgians for the Manaspa. He still has to worry about the Saracens, but the Georgians still are available for him.
That's a really interesting idea. Do you play maps where the Georgians won't be played so that you can eat up the rest of the camel civs? Are you trying to bait out more camel civs? So play a map where Georgians is viable but not guaranteed to try and get Saracens to come out.
If you're leading it,
or Hindustanis.
And look at that. I didn't even notice Hindustanis, Saracens, Berbers, and also Italians with the Genoese crossbows all have options.
Okay, maybe there's not enough. You don't have enough maps because, as you say as well, the more maps you bring out of the pool, the more guaranteed the Georgians pick is at a certain point, and it won't be a surprise anymore there for Hearttt.
All right, and I'm being told the next map is Bedouins, so we can look at the civs here. Georgians could be an options there.
Malians seems logical.
We see them on Nomad maps a lot, but kind of like Dravidians, usually it's that wood discount for the docks that make them so good. Might just be their unique unit. You might just want to go get Bedouins here.
Okay, yeah, exactly. A slightly mobile unit, great at raiding. I like the Malians pick there, and then I think the question, goes right back over to Hearttt and what you'd want to play there. I could see a lot of different civs being viable here.
You know what I'd really like? If he picked Malay and he tried to fish boom in the ponds.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. That would be very, very risky. I doubt we'll see it. There's better places, I think, for Malay to go, but right on to Bedouins. Georgians, okay. Georgians,
and what's that civ for Hearttt? Is that Hindustanis there?
That's what it's looking like to me. The green shield. Hindustanis versus Georgians.
You probably recognize these civ icons much better than I do.
I don't think I do. I honestly don't think I do. But we are correct. It is the Hindustanis versus the Georgians. So, a good call by Hearttt to get a very powerful camel civ into this matchup. Of course, anything can happen on a pretty wide open map like Bedouins, right? Especially when both civs are comfortable going for scout cavalry.
And the great thing about the Georgians on this map is you start with that mule cart once you get your TC up. So as ACCM is doing, he can send it right to that wood line on the edge of the map. He can scout with it. He can try to find more sheep with it. You have lots of options for how you use it.
I was going to say, one of the things I will be most curious about is how many sheep each player is able to find. We heard Vinchester talking about his series on Bedouins versus Doubt and how important he felt the number of sheep he found to be when he took that early pressure, saying, I don't think I get away with what I got away with if I didn't have that ability to garner food in the face of a tower rush, let's say.
Right. The shorefish that you get in the ponds are collected much faster than the sheep, but they're much more vulnerable. You need to space out to them, and you also need to spend wood building mills on them. Sort of like going for farms just a bit more efficiently. The sheep you can just take right under your TC, and in the face of pretty much any pressure, find a safe spot where you can still gather food.
Exactly. Now, one of the questions we did have when just talking about the draft and the possibility of this map was ultimately where the position of each players would be in terms of their starting TC. And I would say they're relatively far apart.
And I think that's what you want to be if you're Hearttt, where you have the Hindustanis. Give yourself time to get to the camels and hope that ACCM doesn't have that option for, say, some type of fast castle drop, where the castle and the Banaspa come right on your doorstep.
I was going to say we saw kind of the ultimate fighting power of the Hindustanis in the Tato versus Viper Copenhagen map. The only issue there was running out of gold and not being able to sustain the production of your camels and your hand cannons.
Exactly. That matchup's a bit tricky because of that gold dependency that the Hindustanis have. And Bedouins is tricky because there's a lot of gold on it, but you need to move out to secure it. And if you're able to secure a lot of the map, you have that gold to power your camels and power yourself against the Georgians.
All right, well, it's a hot start for both players. We already have a feudal age timing here for Hearttt. So, true to the first game, he does have that slightly faster time, but not eclipsed by too much. ACCM clicks up just behind.
Yeah, and we can see the scouting from both players. Those sheep you mentioned, important not just for the food, but for the scouting. You don't start with a horse, you don't start with a scout on this map. You have to use your sheep to find where your opponent is.
Look at that scouting, though. It's so impressive how much vision these players are able to accumulate in such a short amount of time using sheep of all things.
Yeah, and I think ACCM has scouted literally everywhere except for Heartt's TC, so at least he has a very good guess of where Hearttt is. Hearttt has basically scouted half the map, but still has a big black area on the left-hand side where he doesn't quite know exactly where ACCM is yet.
I would expect both players, of course, to go for scouts, right? Shore up any lack of vision that you already have. Maybe finding, a cheeky Vil snipe here or there. I think the question is, did either player find each other's mill? Because those can a lot of times be the most vulnerable. We did spot the house there, and the sheep would have been converted, and we have it there as well. Okay, so I think both players are fully aware of where. Oh, and we're just confirming. That's confirmation right there if I've ever seen it.
Yeah, and the mill's close to each other. Maybe we could see some Vil fighting there. It might also be a case where the players ignore each other on the mills.
Absolutely.
It's always tricky to keep that in mind because it's not like a standard map. You're not used to having that mill all the way across the map from your TC.
Yeah, you got to have great awareness on this map with how spread out things are. Loom for both. Stables to follow, I'm certain of it. And, of course, matching the wood upgrades.
Yeah, and that horse collar we had mentioned last time, you're not going to invest into that because of all those sheep, because of all those shorefish that you have.
Right. And so players are in lockstep, but, of course, it's Hearttt who gets the scouts in the queue first. Pops 3 into the queue plus a spear. ACCM quicker to the spears, though. That's been a trend as well.
Yep, and of course, as the Georgians, your scouts are going to heal. So you can take a fight, pull back before your scouts die, heal them up, and then take another fight later on. In the scout versus scout war, Georgians probably the best save there is right now.
Oh, absolutely. As long as the army control is there, right? You don't commit to all-ins. You take those minor health trades, heal some back up, and then go in for the kill a little bit later.
The tricky thing will be is if you get to a very heavy scout fight and then transition to the Castle Age, and then the camels come out from the Hindustanis. That's where the Georgians can run into issues. And we might need to see some type of archer or crossbow transition like we saw in the previous game, too.
Yeah, big walls coming up here for ACCM. Going to try and lock down the entire corner there towards the wood lines. Hearttt as well working on his walls. Not as quick, I'd say, and now we have our first scout engagement of the game. Just a little bit of health traded, but like you said, Georgians now backs away and says, okay, everything I just lost, I'll gain back.
Yeah, and I like how ACCM looks like he has 2 gold mines inside of his walls. They're both kind of far away from his TC, so it's important he's able to get them secured if he can finish that wall.
Yeah, what about the resource situation over here for Hearttt?
It looks a bit trickier on the gold.
Where's his gold?
I don't think he has one in that corner. And
that's his closest gold?
That's what this map script can do to you. It can get your golds really far away. And the way he's walling is going to make it hard for him to access the gold if he gets trapped by scouts. And he really needs to pay attention to that. Maybe go heavy on the spears just to get some Vils out there.
Yeah.
One of the nice things on this map is you can sneak and get a mining camp and hope it's somewhere your opponent isn't scouting.
It's a little concerning. I see damage potential here for ACCM over on the right-hand side. Oh, he diverts the scouts. He had an opportunity to catch the Vils walling down there.
There are a couple of spears there for Hearttt, though. So Hearttt, if you look at that, he has 4 spears out, 5 spears out for ACCM. They're very well aware of the need to protect their walling villagers. Oh, the Vils on top of the house, but the TC's there.
Hair would have gone. Hair would have dove right in, and he would have run around the back of that base for the next 20 minutes.
And he probably would have sniped about 10 or 20 sheep underneath the TC at the same time.
Exactly. ACCM, though, he values his scout lives. He's going to go ahead and regroup. Now up to 5. but doesn't want to contest a battle where a spear is involved. So just a lot of dancing so far between our players. It's 1-1 in the KD, and there's the gold mine. What a risky position.
But the good thing about it is he's going for the mining camp so late, ACCM isn't scouting with the sheep anymore. He has to spot that with his scouts now.
Yeah, and he actually already brought his scouts over that direction, and I do wonder if he's full. He might even think there is a gold somewhere inside of, Heartt's base.
Yeah, let's see his vision. He hasn't seen the inside of Heartt's base, and he's not going to see that because of the walls.
Yeah.
So he might be thinking Heartt has a safe gold just like he does.
Exactly. You see gold units start to come out, and you go, oh, okay, well, he must have
Right.
Something behind those walls. Battering away on the military buildings.
And it's really important now for Heartt to keep the scout position of ACCM in his vision so he knows whether ACCM is going to make a move and scout his gold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so doing a great job of tracking so far. Oh, but look at those skirm numbers here for ACCM. I mean, overall military count much better for him as well, while it is a small villager lead here for the Hindustanis.
And can we get the spears to engage on the scouts? This is where it gets tricky for both players. The spears kind of dictate where the positioning of the scout battle happens, but neither player wants to engage with the spears. And here, we kind of the opposite of what you might expect. It's the scouts killing the stable for the Hindustani player.
Yeah.
Hindustanis who have that attack bonus.
No, I really like this, though, because you're also kind of looking to force a fight, right?
Exactly,
You've got good numbers. You've got better spear count. Of course, we do see the flag on the barracks, so you should be a little concerned about that if the right kind of engagement comes out. But once again, it's ACCM who's going to go for the early upgrades there on the scout cavalry, opting for forging. Ooh, good wall. Needs to get the third one down, and does.
He does, but Heartt clicks up to the Castle Age. Heartt clicks up to the Castle Age and still has a similar military number to ACCM.
Oh, can you commit to this?
Upgrades.
All right, turning back onto that stable. I mean, that's good damage just to get that stable down.
Yeah, but this is where Heartt just he doesn't want to commit to the fight. He just wants to dance around with the spears and try to force ACCM to idle his army and stop attacking.
Mm-hmm. So he loops around, a little ring around the rosy being played. Some more villagers coming out.
I mean, I wouldn't mind sending a vill or two to try to repair the stable. If he tries to attack your vills, then you can take and win the fight.
Yeah, but reminder, there's forging involved here for our blue players, so that takes effect on both the spears and the scouts. Okay, just comes in now for Heartt, but I'd say overall a decent trade for the Georgian player. He has more spears remaining, but hasn't managed to get that stable down.
And as the scout numbers start to dwindle, the stable's going to stay up.
Yeah, wouldn't be too happy to have seen that third scout die when it could have been kept alive maybe and have that regen come through, but still, again, feeling like he can turn back on. The Bloodline's 35 seconds away from being completed. How much health does that stable have left on it? It will complete, it looks like, with just 2 scouts attacking.
Well,
but
that's going to be close.
That's mighty close.
More spears coming over.
Oh, Lord. Don't tell me we're gonna lose our stable
really
to feudal age spears and misplay. Okay, it's gonna complete. It's gonna complete.
Woo! He's dancing with his scouts just enough to keep it alive. There's the Repairville.
Just in time.
Yeah, wall the vill in, keep her safe.
So after all of that, the stable will remain up, and Castle Age timing looking fantastic here for Heartt.
And immediately he drops a TC on that gold. He knows it's vulnerable. He knows he needs to protect it. And in the south, he finally will have a bit of his base extended out there.
Yeah, great recognition of really the only vulnerable part of his entire civilization at the time being. And since he has tracked these units to the middle of the map, he can freely put it up with 2 vills. He's not rushing that thing up because he's not too worried about getting punished for it.
What he is worried about is getting the camels out. Camels will help counter those scouts, and so far he has not seen a single archer unit from ACCM, so he's confident he can get them out and start taking fights with them.
Yeah, now all that said, he hasn't been over to ACCM's side of the map for quite some time, just now starting to move in that direction, so no opportunity to see if a second stable has gone down or if that archery range has gone down. Of course, could also throw these things down behind the wall. We see a second TC coming up for ACCM, more protected against that back wood line.
And that's a very effective TC, because usually you want to put your vills on the wood line as you're spawning them.
Right.
It's going to be a bit trickier for Heartt to manage the eco around that gold TC in the south.
Yeah, and a very safe monastery for any relics that come back, but of course it eliminates farming space right next to that TC. Okay, it's as if Heartt just heard you talking about it. Yes, you know what? I need to send some vills to wood as well, so my third TC going to go up against that wood line. A pretty natural placement at that. Now Heartt's just going to ask some questions of ACCM by knocking on those palisade walls. This is good scouting information, though, for ACCM.
Now he sees it.
Yep. First time he's seeing this.
And this is now maybe where ACCM needs to start questioning, hey, does he actually have that gold inside of his base? Why is he this far outside where it's not as safe?
Yeah, does this become my point of focus if I'm going to go for any kind of aggression in the Castle Age? Maybe a forward siege workshop, and pushing your opponent off of that gold alone could end the game.
Right, and I know these players have been practicing all of the maps constantly, and they've seen bad generations like this. I know the players are constantly talking about Bedouins and what happens if they don't have resources on the side of the map.
Well, third TC now as well for ACCM. Horse Scholar coming in. Light Cav upgrade, but he's being chased by camels, so still not really a fight you want to take unless you have overwhelming numbers.
Still, you're forcing Heartt to chase you, and you're forcing him to pay attention to more areas. And if he ever makes a mistake, you might be able to jump some fields with a light cav.
Yeah, slowly ticking up in HP. You can see that with 353, 354.
I mean, it's not even that slowly. It's pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's pretty decent. And it's only one of those light cav that was injured at the time being. Monks coming out, though, looking for conversions here onto the camels. Heartt backs away. Numbers up to 8 for him. 51 villagers on the side of the Hindustanis. 46 on the side of the Georgians.
Another monastery going up for ACCM, so he's going to go pretty heavy into the monks as the counter to the camels there.
A double monastery. Don't hate it, though, especially as he might want to look to get some of those relics in as well.
Yeah, and you always have the questions with the Georgians. When are they going to go to stone, and when are they going to make that castle for the Benaspa?
Yeah, so also fortified churches, too. Such a great defensive building. For so little in terms of investment.
Exactly, and for the Georgians, you're going to make your eco more effective too. It's not just for training the monks, it's going to be that 10% bonus to all of your resources inside the area near the church that gets boosted.
So that's going to feel good. We're going to start to see the economy take off here for ACCM. And while the KD is 18 to 12, it doesn't really feel like anything important has been won or lost between these players.
A few spears, but the camels are getting in. ACCM not quite walling in time, and the camel's going to jump a monk right away and at least force him off of that gold.
Yeah, a bit surprising, honestly, that he was able to get in with that. At least one conversion did come through in response, and ultimately the camels get pushed away. So I would expect to see that house come up and close the wall yet again.
Yep, and that's that Hindustani's bonus with the extra attack from the light cav and the camel lines against the walls, just letting Heartt break in, get that monk do a bit of damage.
Let's talk about how the game develops from here, though, as we get into what feels like a bit of a mid-game. I'm not going to call it a lull, but
it's the booming part.
It's a steady state of the game, exactly. It's the booming, steady state of the game. Obviously, the economy for the Georgians, incredible as more of those fortified churches come in. But at the same time, I'm still in the back of my mind thinking about the post-Imperial compositions and almost the impossibility of playing into Imperial Age camels and hand cannons if Heartt has the resources to sustain it. Yeah.
Right. I think this is Heartt's concentration now, making sure that he has access to all of that gold in the southern area of the map as he adds another TC there, and ensuring that he will be able to get to those Imperial Age camels that he wants.
Understanding wind conditions, that's the 4th town center, and it's protecting another massive gold pile. I like to see Devotion come in as well, as your opponent's response to your camels is largely monks, but while I say that, we're starting to see pikes flood the field and massive house walls to keep the economy safe.
Right, and that's the tricky part when you're Hindustanis here. In the late game, you want to get to those hand cannoneers. You don't quite have that quick transition against the pikemen in the Castle Age that you do if you want to go archers instead.
Now, both players, actually, right as I say, okay, yeah, so he's building the TC on stone with about 11 villagers. It looks like ACCM will be moving to stone. We already have 7 on stone here for Heartt. Now I'm thinking about castle positions. Who wants to go forward with theirs? Who wants to play defensively and lock down areas with theirs?
I think it really depends on how much you want to boom versus how quickly you want to go imp. If you want to go imp faster, you can go for the forward castle and force that Trebhor. If you just want to boom, you're more defensive in defending your eco.
Now, we brought it up about 10 minutes ago in-game, the possibility of a siege workshop to pressure those gold positions. And so ACCM doesn't know about the newest TC on yet another gold, but is maybe thinking about trying to force his opponent off of that important resource.
Yeah, it's an interesting TC spot because it's kind of in the middle of the map, and he can pressure either the right side of Heartt space or those TCs to the south, and he has decisions about where to send his siege.
Definitely has options. Monks are forward, not using them at the moment to convert. There we go. The micro is coming through, and the camels back away. Walls are still up, though, so no light cav getting in, and the monk barely got away with the heist.
Ooh, we'll see if he can get a conversion there. The monks have kept walking. They haven't lost their conversion yet. Okay, he pulls them back. As long as the monk continues walking, the conversion stays charged. So if Hearttt were to decide to loop back around with the camels, he would get converted pretty much instantly.
Okay. Equivalent economies, slight military lead here for ACCM. More pikes coming through. This is a scary Castle Age push for a player that is a sole army makeup of camels.
Yep. And here, how do you deal with the pikes as the Hindustanis? That's the question for Hearttt. One option would be to do a castle and do some Ghulams, your unique unit, to fight them. They can fight off against monks pretty well too. But he doesn't have the stone for it. Has not been.
Well, he just placed it.
And he lost. Oh, well, that's why he doesn't have the stone, because he just placed it. I'm looking at that stone count and thinking.
No, you're calling the shots, though. Your head is where his head is. He's thinking the exact same thing. I can't just keep producing camels into this. I have to have another answer. And you know what? Where do I prioritize the defensive structure the most? On top of that gold to allow me to continue the production. And so ACCM is going to go the other direction with his siege. And it's not so much mangonels. It's investment into Castle Age Rams. 3 of them at that.
And Ram's a unit that will be weak to those Ghulams. They are a melee unit. They will do a lot of damage to them. And this is an interesting push because Hearttt, he can lose that area. And what's he really losing? Some farming space. He's not really caring as much about it other than that's where his base is. He can run the vills. He can go to the back wood line. And that castle is defending the important spot on his gold. But here we have ACCM. He's going for his own castle, and he has just clicked Imp.
Yeah.
He's in a position for a Trebor once he does get Imp.
I mean, look at that. The Georgian economy has built him a 1.5k resource collected lead over the last few minutes. And I think that's what's basically given him those Imperial Age resources. So the forward castle is looking to come down. The question is there enough military to support?
These conversions will be important.
Yep, conversions will be important, and he does manage to get a few of them. Any extra healing he can get through with these monks is very relevant as well. Doesn't look like the military is there for Hearttt to push this castle away, although he is going to come in with those that little group of camels to see if he can make a mess of it. I think in the end, though, this is going to work out for ACCM, and ultimately Hearttt is going to get pushed away.
And he's going to get the castle up. The ram push can continue, and Hearttt, he's clicked Imp himself, but he's going to be behind in the Trebor. ACCM's already a little over a minute ahead to Imp. And this now, if you're Hearttt, how do you get your army numbers up? That's the question. You have the Ghulams, and it feels like they counter everything ACCM is making, but you just don't have the numbers yet to take the fight.
Yeah, no, if I'm ACCM in this position, I'm very happy with the game state. I'm very happy with the fact that I'm the one with agency. I'm the one putting the pressure on my opponent. I'm the one taking out his production buildings, and I'm the one who's going to make it to Imperial Age first.
And he's the one with the forward sneaky siege workshops. Look at that.
And the forward TC.
And a forward TC. Okay. Well, honestly, the forward TC matters because you can make more vills there.
It's true.
It means you're not just going to get cleaned up as long as Hearttt doesn't spot it and kill the TC early enough.
Yeah, absolutely. So that'll come as a surprise, I think, to Hearttt when he sees another ram coming from behind. Either way, the walls are open. Heartt's exposed. The market goes down. He's trying to rush up more stables, but again, that's just to produce more camels, more light cav into units that I'm not sure they're very effective against.
Right, and it feels like the army composition almost is there for Hearttt, but the timing and the economy just isn't keeping up with the Georgians, and there we have the GG.
Wow, what a game there for ACCM. What a game. Just utilizing Georgians, of course, first pick. Right, I think that's something we have to acknowledge is that he invested the first pick in the draft to that civilization, and so not winning with it really would have been, I think, almost more detrimental than the fact that that he did.
Right, and it felt like Hearttt still had a civ that probably could have been competitive against them, but still, it's Georgians. You can be as competitive against them as you want. It's going to be tricky.
Well, and you're requiring, I think, that you get to a very late game state. Playing Hindustanis into the Georgians specifically, and maybe there's a generation on that map and a positioning on that map where you can do as much. But honestly, I'm not even sure that was super relevant to the result of the game. I just think the aggression and the choice to go for those early rams while keeping your economy so safe and making good use of the fortified church eco bonus is what accelerated ACCM to the win.
Maybe Hearttt can read that a bit better. Maybe he can go for the castle and the Ghulams a bit earlier, but it's just so tricky when he needs to keep track of his base in one area and then also move out to those golds and keep everything safe and put the castle in a spot where the push wasn't coming.
That's maybe the most actually relevant thing is that gold position kind of made him feel like that was where the castle had to go.
Right.
And by virtue, it left his main eco exposed. If he had one gold, one big gold pile in his base, then maybe the castle can be placed in a way that the push isn't so successful.
Right, and maybe the castle buys him time that he can defend against all of those pikemen before he's actually overwhelmed and can't get the Ghulams out.
Yeah, so what did we say? ACCM definitely doesn't want to go down 0-2 because that's when the lead starts to feel, while possible, it feels insurmountable. We're evened back up at 1-1. Both games, though, I think have felt relatively smooth for the winning player.
I think they have. I'd like to take maybe another look at the draft. We can see the civs they have remaining. We talked about those camel civs earlier. He's already used 2, Berbers and then Hindustanis. He has the Saracens left. Other than that, Hearttt has 3 water civs. It was, Malay, Dravidians, and Italians, if I remember.
Yes.
And Tide Pool, still in the map pool.
Tide Pool's still in the map pool. Of course, it will be Heartt's map select, having taken the loss, right? And so while Tide Pool is ACCM's remaining home map, I believe.
Yep.
The other side we have, we'll get it up in just a moment. I believe it's Bypass and the riverbed, right?
Dry River.
Dry River.
Yes. And I would be interested to see Dry River.
I want to go to Dry River. That's what I'm secretly hoping for is Dry River. No confirmation on that, by the way. This is just a hope, not necessarily a guarantee. But even then, okay, Dry River, pretty open map. Again, it can be played, I think, in a way scout heavy, like we've already seen so far. Yes, opportunity to wall back at home between all of those wood lines, but a very open middle of the map.
Yeah, as we have both players taking a bit of a break here with their empty chairs. I wish ACCM would have maybe left some type of Christmas blanket on the back of his chair to hold the space for his sweater while he's gone.
Yeah, no, it's a good call. Well, there's still plenty of days left to go in the tournament, so we can continue leveling the space up with some of the festivities. Malay Dravidians, as we mentioned, still available as the first and second pick there for Hearttt. ACCM has already played his first 2 picks, and so it's kind of moving down his board sequentially there.
Yeah, and I'm thinking when I look at Tide Pool, maybe Malians are the civ he's going to use there, but again, very good in the early game on the water. They fall off late game, and that is a map we've seen a few times go through that Imperially.
Yeah, okay, so while I can totally understand it from the hybrid perspective of the map, I'm going to be honest, I kind of hate it for how that map typically plays out, because it plays out in choke points on land. Right? And I don't feel like the Malians are necessarily going to excel there in the way that, let's say, the Turks or the Bohemians might. Again, a gunpowder civ that actually just wants to group up into kind of a death ball and push down one specific lane.
That's interesting. And the Turks, of course, if they get artillery, they have extra range on their cannon galleon lines. And with how narrow that map is, maybe that's what he's thinking, and he would still have Bohemians available for bypass.
You called him the chef earlier. You called him the chef. Now I'm just trying to theory craft what he might be cooking up. Exactly. And so while the players make use of their remaining break, we're going to send y'all to a break so you can catch your breath before we come back here for game number 3. See you in a bit.
And now, a word from our partners.
Have you heard of the 21st century?
Why settle for clacks, clunks and jams? Say goodbye to sticking keys. And welcome to the ultra-responsive, quiet precision of the U-Rage Exodus 760 mechanical keyboard. With our Temu red switches for ultra-silent key presses, anti-ghosting with N-key rollover, and 1 millisecond response time, this keyboard will keep up with your fastest moves. Whether you're gaming or working, you'll enjoy precise control at the speed of light. Get yours on mueller.de. In case you rage, we do not cover costs for damaged screens or unfinished castles.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Noble Apartment Cup. 1-1 stands the series score between ACCM and Hearttt. We're gearing up for map number 3. I know that both of us are sitting here just hoping for a Dry River game because we've only seen it once so far in the tournament, and it came in the very first set of the entire tournament.
It was a very creative build from Tato with that Goth's Drush into Men-at-Arms play on the map. I'm excited to see if ACCM's cooked something for it.
Yeah, now granted, no Goths in the draft, so I'm not sure if it would be the same exact strategy, but like you say, I think especially when you consider maps that haven't been played much, there isn't a consensus, or as much
creativity on it that we haven't seen yet.
Exactly. And so can the chef whip something up fancy here and surprise us and delight us in map number 3? We're going to wait for confirmation of where we're going. Maybe we can pull the draft up just to give the audience a reminder as well of which both players have left to work with. 4 civs apiece. 3 maps remaining in the pool. Hearttt, having taken the loss, is going to have map select. So, of course, he can go for either of his 2 home maps in Bypass or Dry River. Or he could even reach for that Tide Pool if he's feeling a little cheeky.
And honestly, I'm liking his Civ selection for Tide Pool, but we've been talking about this earlier. The Turks might be a curious selection for ACCM.
It really could. And I think that would be a pretty ingenious move as long as you can guarantee you make it to the stage of the game. And guess where we're going, of all places? It's going to be to Tide Pool. And it's Italians
I think that's
against the Malians. That was your call, my friend. Well done.
They're the more hybrid maps.
They are the more hybrid
here,
Civ,
right?
Sure.
But it still feels tricky on this map. You can go to the late game, and then what do you do on the water? You don't have Bracer, you don't have Galleon, and you fall behind.
Yeah, so once again, maybe the onus is on you to end the game early, not let it get to the stage where your opponent gets full control of that middle pond, right, and even suffocates you more in terms of what square footage of land you have left to operate with. Again, blistering pace here as we're 5 minutes into the game. Both players on the way to the feudal age. The first thing to take note of course, is those initial dock positionings and whether or not we're fighting for the same water or we've opted for, one in, one out, and that will ultimately be the case here.
And we do indeed have that 1 in, 1 out as Hearttt here to the eastern side of the map. And the red has docked the middle and already has 4 fishing ships out. As the Italians, the fishing ships are cheaper. And then ACCM over in the blue to the west. He has docked on the outside of the map and already is fishing out there, has 3 fishing ships there.
Okay, so we know where the dock positionings are. The next question is, do the players know where each other's dock positionings are? And it looks like, yes, we know on ACCM's side.
Ooh, and he's docking the middle now.
Ooh.
Yeah. So this is interesting. You're not going to have the production if you do the dock in the middle with one on the outside.
This could be
but you
bad
won't
for
have
Hearttt.
safe fish.
This could be bad for Hearttt because he already scouted the shoreline and didn't see that dock going down.
Now he's going to scout the outside, and he will see the dock out there.
Yeah, so, you know, it's just the reliance on information at the highest level of Age of Empires will never cease to amaze me, right?
Right.
And how having that one extra bit of info can completely alter your approach to the game. And so, yes, he sees the first dock on the outside, now going to cut back through the middle of the base, take stock of the wood lines, maybe loop around the inner pond one more time, which would be amazing for him to do.
Yeah, and it looks like that's exactly what he's going to do, moving that scout along the shoreline. Does he bring the scout back, though, or does he go down?
Oh, he's bringing it back.
Bringing it back.
He's bringing it back, y'all. Okay, a couple more docks even. I think that might even be a second dock there for ACCM. So huge water investment into the center pond. 2 fire ships on the way to the 1 fire galley on the other side. And Hearttt will take this opportunity to move out to his back pond, maybe for some safe fishing as well.
And Hearttt going for a stable as well. Looks like he'll be adding in some scouts and might try to raid on land while also fighting on the water. It's very important for ACCM to scout the stable and the scouts, because then he can defend with small walls on his base. As long as there aren't archers coming forward, as long as he is on point, he shouldn't take damage.
This is always such an intriguing map to see how the generation will play out in terms of gold, because take a look at Heartt's side, right?
They're all
4 golds in a
south.
row along the southern side of the map. That's going to be a very important place to lock down.
Absolutely, and recall that Tato Dogao game where Dogao had all those golds in one location, and Tato went for elephants to control them.
Okay, so fighting along the shoreline, we can make use of the villager for repairs. It is 2 fire galleys against 1. But we'll see where the micro lands, because now ACCM has turned his attention toward the fishing ships, maybe thinking, okay, I can just remove your fishing economy. Great micro there to pull the fire galley away. Don't know, even if it gets back for repairs here, 3 fire galleys might be enough to take it down. Great kill here for ACCM on the central pond, and now the fish are on the run.
And remember, Hearttt invested into that second dock to try to fight for the fish in the middle. He didn't just decide, okay, I've lost against 2 docks, I'm going to give it up. He added more wood and more investment there to try to keep those fish alive, and it might backfire on him as he loses the water there.
Yeah, the fish will remain alive, at least for the time being, but not working. I like to see this counterattack, though. 4 scouts coming forward, committing against the spears, but this could be big, because with 4 scouts still alive now onto the wood line, the villagers have to run.
And ACCM wasn't able to wall them in on that side. Didn't get the wall.
Oh, didn't get the wall there. Okay.
But the spears there. Still has spears. And this is what makes it so tricky to do damage with the scouts. It just takes a couple of spears and a few small walls, and you're safe.
Yep. Okay, so 1 scout goes down. Still 3 running around.
Really close to the TC, though.
Yeah, not quite. It is 1-0 in the Eco KD, as he did manage to snipe 1 lumberjack. But again, that central pond, there are 4 idle fishing ships that we need to take note of. So while it's a nice eco advantage in terms of the numbers, in terms of what's actually working, exactly.
On the outside, it looks like Hearttt did also dock on the
they're
right.
hidden. He can't find them.
Well, maybe eventually he can keep them alive and redock if he gets castle faster.
That's what we call hiding in plain sight, folks. Hiding in plain sight.
It's really annoying, though, because as you're playing, you're constantly pressing your idle villager hockey, and you're just constantly jumping your camera back to your idle fishing ships, knowing you can't do anything with them.
Yeah, and then you're tempted to just delete them
so
that you don't run into that situation again. Oh, looking to maybe dive for a villager there, finds a little bit of damage, backs away before the spear can find too much purchase. A demo comes out, solid hit there onto 2 fire galleys, but overall the numbers are still in favor of ACCM on this central pond. Does need to group up these fire galleys. Snipes 1 down. It's 5v3 in this situation, and the focus is looking good here.
Yeah, and again, that's ACCM not giving up on the central water. He read that Hearttt was going to try to fight for it and added in more fires of his own.
Now on the back throughout all of this, I don't think Hearttt has been like unperturbed, right? He's been rather unperturbed, I should say, and has built up a decent fishing ship lead.
Oh, those scouts, though. Those scouts and those spears.
No! Completely focused elsewhere, but while you're losing your scouts, you did get a great demo there onto ACCM's fire galleys and might have bought yourself a little bit of life here on the central pond. We've got now 3 scouts coming forward and a Vil snipe on the wood line, as you can see that body of the villager
there. So now just kind of a similar game. Both players trying to control the middle, scouts and spears raiding and defending on the outside.
Okay. I don't even know. Oh, market of all things. And solid walls, like we said here, for ACCM, basically fully complete at this point in time. So it's really just Hearttt who's got to be worried about taking any more damage on land.
Yep. And of course, you can't wall on that rock terrain on the hill, so you have to go for that circle like ACCM did.
The egg wall. The infamous egg wall, looking at resources as well, because both players clearly thinking about clicking up to the Castle Age. Resources about to be hit for ACCM. Of course, it's a bit cheaper for Italians to do so, so I'd say they're pretty matched in their Castle Age timings.
Their timings will be very similar, and the great thing for the Italians, of course, cheaper fishing ships, so Hearttt rebuilding the fish on the outside, not going to hurt as much that he lost the fish in the middle.
Yeah, another Vil snipe there by the gold. From those scouts, the scouts, of course, super weak, so thinking about running all the way home at this point. More engagement on water in the middle, but at this point...
Oh, demo?
Ooh, huge demo and fire galley numbers in favor of Hearttt.
And just waiting for Hearttt to click up. He's had the resources for a bit.
There it is.
There he goes, but around 30 seconds or so behind. Looks like he just
had to rush up a blacksmith with 8 villagers.
Oh, we saw that happen to Dow earlier, too. Even players at this level, it happens to them, and you forget that building, and you just rush it up.
I mean, look how much is going on these maps, right? You know, I mean, it's absolutely wild. You're trying to manage economies, 2 different fishing economies. Your outside ring fishing economy, your inside pond fishing economy. Now you got to deal with land. You're dealing with scouts. You're dealing with raiding spearmen of all things on your gold.
And now, if you're Hearttt, yeah, you can wall yourself up, but you're worried about those golds to the south. Those 3 extra golds that are going to be outside of your walls. As you get to the Castle Age, start booming, thinking about how you set up your eco, you need to find a way to control them.
Yeah, ACCM will win the race to the Castle Age. I'm trying to figure out whether or not he's going to continue committing on water, because not too many fire galleys in the queue. Okay, goes for another demo. And since he will have the advantage, at least in tech timings, along with reaching the Castle Age first, he might be able to turn the tides of battle once again on water. This is a great move to keep the base open. Heartt's really struggled to complete the last bits of his wall there.
Yeah, he has, and he's also open on the back, too. He has a long way still to wall, but now that ACCM is up, he immediately queues that War Galley upgrade and forging for the scouts, and he's going to have a bit of a moment here where he can do his upgrade, maybe then try to get some momentum back in the middle on the water if he wants to, or send a forward Vil. Sneaky
forward Vil doesn't get seen by Hearttt. I mean, that would have been envisioned for a moment. The question is, did Hearttt actually see it happen? Because this is very likely to be yet another dock on the outside ring. Or not. Now we're rerouting.
Workshop?
Yeah, it's a workshop. Okay.
Yeah, this is going to be tricky because
this is Bedouins. This is Bedouins again.
Bedouins, yeah.
It's the gold. It's 100% recognizing that this is the only gold position here for Hearttt.
And Hearttt, well, the way the island spawned, he actually has options to go for gold in the very north of the map that looks like ACCM hasn't scouted. Has Hearttt seen that in his vision? We'll see. His scout did come back that way. If we check out Heartt's Fog of War as he's pushing back.
I'm sure it saw this, it saw one of them. And at the very least, you could expect a gold pile to be up there with knowledge of the map. It does look like Hearttt is going to continue to win the water battle in the middle. Great demos throughout this game for him.
And now it looks like he's winning the water. So we were both scared a bit when we saw ACCM doing those double docks in the middle that Hearttt didn't scout, but he reacted to it, and he kept those fish alive. I'm sure he checked his idle villager button over and over and saw them, but he knows they're still there.
Yeah, it's actually honestly very impressive to have kept those alive. We do have knights forward now. I'm not sure if Hearttt is yet aware of that siege workshop, though.
Is there a hole by that house?
There is a hole. They went right in, and he's onto the gold. Oh, no.
That is not what he wanted there. And again, we're looking at that camel versus knight matchup where Hearttt, as the Italians, does not have access to the camels. He doesn't have that quick unit to clean up the knights unless he tries to go for that monastery.
I'm very concerned. You'd have a much easier time defending against this if you still had access to at least that 1 gold pile for the time being. But this hole alone really exposes him.
And if he wants to go for monks, he needs gold for them.
He's got to sell.
He has to use the market and he has to sell. Well, he was missing buildings earlier. Does he actually have a market? We saw him wash up the blacksmith and he has the stable.
He does have a market. Okay, so there's still a bit of a saving grace there. Just gets above that 100 gold count. Looking to see, okay, 1 monk in the queue.
He should probably try to wall that there.
Still,
he has a moment.
Still doesn't know about the siege workshop. First mangonel out onto the field.
You get like one more house.
Do you wait for more mangonels before you show them? I think.
You could wait for a second mangonel, wait for a monk. But I think the earlier you attack, it's that one gold, right? You don't need to worry about pushing TCs at the moment. You're just worried about taking them off the gold.
Okay, good point, good point. Well, we did get that palisade wall up at the very least. Obviously, a Mangonel will make quick work of that. The Knights are kind of just testing, poking, and prodding. Mangonel coming forward now. Monk out onto the field. So exactly like you talked about, that's the timing to go forward and be aggressive yet again. Vils need to be careful because they can be hit over the wall here. That's another good find.
Oh, and a quick conversion.
That could also be big, but we'll get converted back. The delete. Okay, we will take that trade. There's another hole. Oh my God, the spearman.
These walls are porous.
Yeah, the spearman exposes the hole, but it's not really going to matter because the palisade wall will go down soon enough.
That's a Knight.
He does?
That's huge. If one more conversion comes in on a Knight, then all of a sudden you might clear a Monk and a Mangonel.
Looking at TCs, both players making their way out to 3, and Hearttt has realized the importance of the gold, and he's moving villagers up to the north now to reestablish a bit of a gold position. Ooh, I don't... Let's replace that. Not the most efficient, but it'll still work.
It's on a gold. That's all that matters to him right now. He has gold access. He can make more Knights if he needs them. He can make more Monks, and he's making some Scouts now to try to use them to snipe off ACCM's Monks. But that might be going too early.
Ooh, Scout. Yeah, one Scout ends up going down. The heals come through.
Healing. Good job by ACCM to heal the Monk and kill the Scout with the Knights.
Also, I love this. He can just... He's not worried about hitting his own Knights with his Mangonel because he can heal him back up.
Yeah, you have to attack ground the stable. If you just right-click the stable, you hit your Knights, but if you attack ground the other side, then you're okay.
Look at this. Being stubborn on water, too, right? I think
another demo.
Yeah, there's a number of players who at this point may have just given up and conceded water in favor of their land aggression, but ACCM's just, again, he's going to make Hearttt pull his attention all over the map.
And the key is he has that War Galley upgrade, so even if he has one fire ship, he can kill a lot of fish. He just needs to get it sneak eating on the other side of the map.
Okay, but we're into the main economy. We have 2 Mangonels now targeting the starting TC here from Hearttt. Now, through all of this, Hearttt has built a pretty solid eco advantage in terms of numbers. He's even going for a 4th TC to help protect that gold in the north. So can he weather the storm and eventually let his economy overcome his opponent? That's a castle that ACCM is very well aware of, and now the Mangonels are moving over. This is a very risky castle placement, and Hearttt, I think, realizes that in this moment.
I don't think he can get that up with 2 Mangonels there. And we see ACCM just finishing Atonement. That'll let him convert the enemy Monks. So it's going to be so much harder for Hearttt just to defend here. Hearttt hasn't been going for his Monk techs. Oh, he's doing his own defensive Mangonel. And can he get 2 Mangonels there? He
got one.
Gets one.
Still tricky, though, because those Knights can come in to snipe that second Mangonel.
But he has Monks.
When do you come forward with villagers again to try and replace? So he goes for the delete. Could always be replaced again. He's got plenty of stone in the bank. Gets a conversion. Does lose the Mangonel.
But he can fall back. Maybe delete some farms. Do the castle farther in the back. Use the TC.
There's the castle.
That's safer. But it doesn't protect his gold. That's a much worse spot in terms of securing the gold.
Yeah, without a doubt. And actually still gives you a line to the other TC, right? So if I want to pressure something with Mangonels, I still technically can. It is quite a risky choke point to have to keep funneling through there. Thinking about contesting for a moment. You got to get out of there, though, before that castle completes, or you're going to lose at least one of your Mangonels.
And
finds a couple
go up. Should go up, no problem. And the Monks are going to be under the castle, too.
Yeah, no fletching.
And can the castle hit the Monks?
Okay.
Almost.
Gets away with the Monks.
Second shot was the Ram.
Alrighty. We have a moment to breathe. I feel like the castle gives all of us, including Hearttt, just a moment to breathe. So here's my question to you. With that moment to breathe, what are you thinking as Hearttt? Because it does still feel like you're quite constricted for space.
What you're probably hoping is that the TC at the north is going to give you gold control, and you're hoping maybe ACCM doesn't look like he's scattered that yet. Maybe ACCM thinks you don't have gold access.
That's a good point. Yeah, if he hasn't scouted that yet, then he could think that this is kind of a in-for-the-kill kind of push, looking for more conversions, forcing the delete on the Mangonel.
Oh, he's going with Vils. He's going to fight the Monks with Vils.
He's looking to trap him in with a mining camp?
Oh,
doesn't matter. We're just going to win the fight straight up.
That is where the hole was earlier.
There's still a hole there, yep. Looking for one conversion, but great fight from the villagers. Ultimately taking all 3 of the Monks out. Needs to be careful not to lose too many of them, though, to the Mango.
Now, the Monk can heal the villager. That's always annoying.
Yep, here come the Genoese.
They'll pick off the Monk and the Vil, and he'll have one Mangonel to help. Ooh, okay. I was afraid there he wasn't going to... He was just going to run right into that shot and lose the Mangonel. And here's what we were saying earlier. One fire ship takes out the fishing ship so quickly.
Well, now let's hop back to the side of the Malians. Your push is kind of stalled out. You're a little bit behind in eco. Well, actually evened up in those numbers, right, as I said that. But where do you go from here? Because we kind of talked about the difficulty in navigating the civilization in the late game, specifically on this map, where, yeah, you do love your unique unit, but it's harder to make use of their mobility when it is such a skinny map, you know?
There's an outpost spotting that TC. And you're pushing the Italians. And remember, the Italians always have that easy path to go Imp with how cheap it is. And we have Hearttt on his way up. ACCM with the score lead now. But I think if you're ACCM, you're thinking you need to control the golds. Long term, you might not have the civilization that has the water control on this map, but if you can control those golds, you can go fire ships and avoid needing to go into that galleon line where you're lacking the upgrades. Maybe you can hold on.
And I love this. As soon as Hearttt sees that outpost goes down, he goes, I ain't losing my only other gold positions, my friend. So dropping a great castle in the northern edge of the map, securing 2 gold positions for himself. Still is going to have to find some answer to the forward position of ACCM on the southern side of the map. Mangonel's stacked up right now.
Still can't mine his own gold.
Redemption.
Redemption is so valuable against this defense because it stops the Mangonels from being useful against the Monks.
Castle will go up in the end here for ACCM, but just about the time that he clicks Imperial Age, Hearttt is just about to arrive. We've got villagers playing offense yet again, trying to chase down these Mangonels. Not going to find any kills with the repairs coming through. Retreating back underneath the safety of the castle here in just a moment. That actually could end up being a few villager kills back the other direction. First Gabetto onto the field. Yeah.
And now it's also important that ACCM has managed to clear the docks that were in the middle. If Hearttt still were on the water, he might have options to do chemistry with that Malians University and go for some quick cannon galleons.
Okay, yeah, that could be maybe the recipe for success, especially against these castles that are very rangeable from the central pond. Fire ships even scouting out the Genoese crossbow here as they work their way along the shoreline. Just once again, poking and prodding with some of those knights. We got the monk numbers climbing again here for the Malians player. Some eco upgrades coming in while we make our way to the Imperial Age. A Scorpion. Because why not?
Those today.
Yeah, and a second one.
Well, against Genoese crossbowmen, might be a counter.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Ooh, there's another castle. So ACCM looking to get castles in position, not quite in the aggressive Treb War, but where he'll be able to fall back to and maybe just make trebuchets thinking about hitting both of the castles on each side of the map.
Yeah, chemistry already on the way and almost complete here for Hearttt. Would expect to see some bombard cannons come out as long as he...
And both of these have kind of similar compositions with decent monks and good bombard cannons, but lacking siege engineers.
Okay, ballistics as well. We got fast fire. First gold upgrade just now coming in for ACCM, but floating plenty of gold, so not too much of a concern there. Both players really strapped for food ecos, I'd have to say. While, of course, Hearttt is investing more into a wood gold army composition at the time being. We got bloodlines coming in now for the Malians. More eco upgrades on top of that. Imperial Age has just hit. Trebuchets in the queue. Still no Trebs here on the side of the Italians player.
And Hearttt really didn't take advantage of that timing he had for Imp. He didn't get the Trebs out, wasn't able to clear any of the forward buildings from ACCM, and ACCM still has all of that gold. And I absolutely love the way ACCM has played this considering the Civ matchup. He tried to be aggressive in the Castle Age, didn't let the Italian player get to Imp or get to that late game stage where they probably do have the tech advantage on this map.
Yeah, and it feels like most of Heartt's plan with the Imperial Age was trying to get back onto water, right? We see all those docks up there in the north underneath the castle. That's where the investment of time and resources went, but ACCM caught him. He's already putting pressure onto those docks. We'll see if he can ultimately sustain it because the advantage in the upgrades right now goes the way of the Italians.
Exactly, and now he's going to try to get back onto the water and maybe look for those cannon galleons, as we said earlier, having already gotten that chemistry tech.
Yeah, Bodkin now to follow. Some monk upgrades coming in here for our Malians player. Conscription to boot. More castles being dropped defensively here for Hearttt. This is actually, it's so tough, though, to be placing your castles behind your first gold.
It's rough because you still don't access your gold. Your
Yeah.
gold is still denied by the enemy units, even though you're kind of establishing that base where you can defend your trebs. And here ACCM, he has the treb and he's being aggressive.
Yeah, trebs on both sides, by the way. So already 2 castles under fire. ACCM comes forward for yet another castle position, providing more safety to those trebs as they roll forward. He's got monks in the back of his opponent's base. This is looking really difficult here for Hearttt to navigate on land.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe with that faster imp, he had an opportunity to get back, but I think ACCM clearing the water in the middle, winning Malians against Italians, took some of that timing advantage away.
Heartt's pop capped. The first castle goes down. He's trying to rush houses up, but again, another castle under fire. He's going to get pop capped again, while ACCM just grows his pop lead, closing in on that max 200.
Yeah, and as you're closing in on that max pop, you start floating resources, and you can add in those extra techs you might have been missing. But here it's just all about the Treb Horde, and right now, there's nothing Hearttt can do to take out the Trebs. We've seen how important the bombard cannons are, and you need to micro them just to keep them alive, repair them. But one cannon isn't going to take out 3 Trebs.
Yeah, one cannon and a dream might, though. We'll see.
2 cannons now?
2 cannons, one of them half health. A villager that's feeling very bold as well, looking to chase that other bombard cannon back. The target fires are looking to come in. Neither player finding purchase onto the opponent's siege, now looking for the repairs. But while all this is happening, the Trebs are going down. An amazing find there for Hearttt. A very expensive investment.
Too.
Gets both cannons.
Oh, that's.
Or not
or
with the
gets it.
repairs.
It's close.
Clutch repairs.
One more shot.
Oh, the shot.
And the repair
the Vil. Okay, now.
I did not think Hearttt was going to hold that, but...
All right, well, he holds that side, but he's losing the other side at the same time.
And where are the rest of his golds? The other side that he's losing.
Yeah, the gold. Yeah, he's about to lose access to both of these golds. Now, of course, maybe he can transition back down onto this one, and you see how quickly he floods villagers to that location. ACCM going to continue expanding out. I mean, it's what, 80% of the map to 20% of the map right now in terms of control?
Yeah, now ACCM can start adding in Cavaliers and thinking about getting a raiding unit. Again, it's so hard to wall yourself on this map and stop those raids. And those Gebettos, there's nothing to clear them. They've been in the back this entire time.
52, 54, 55 to 11 is the eco KD here for ACCM. He's just cleaning up the villas on the top side here with Cavalier. And that'll be the cue for Hearttt to tap out of this one. ACCM surges into the lead 2-1 in this series and puts it on series point.
Well, I really like the way he played that. We talked about him being the chef. We were thinking maybe he'd cook something with the Turks, but he cooked something with the Malians there.
Yeah, he did exactly that. And you know what? I'm going to go all the way back to the very beginning of this. The peculiarity of choosing your opponent's home map when you're sitting at 1-1 and then taking the loss on it.
I think he liked his civs, but ran to the chef.
He ran. He's got a sharp knife, man. Watch out. He'll cut you.
He selected the kitchen.
Yeah.
He met the chef.
He touched it. We warned him. That stove was hot. He touched it anyway. Either way, it is still up to ACCM to close it out with one more victory. Hearttt will have 2 opportunities here if he's able to take the next one to then close it out in a 5th and final game. And it will have to happen on both of his home maps, so he can at least rest on that fact.
Indeed. And hopefully he is well prepared for his home maps. I know, like everyone else, he's been practicing this entire week, and we're hoping to see Dry River.
We're hoping to see Dry River. Obviously, we have Bypass as the other map in the pool. I think for Hearttt, now the difficulty is because the chef didn't come out with a Turks or a Bohemians here.
Yes,
it's a coin toss on Bypass. Which one of those civs he might go for?
Right. I don't know if Hearttt really would pick a different civ based on Turks or Bohemians. I feel like Bypass, he still has Malay left as his very first pick.
Mm-hmm.
They make sense there. I don't know what he's going to do on Dry River. He goes, what? Dravidians, Malay, Saracens.
And Saracens was the final option. I mean, maybe you just go Saracens because they're so versatile, right? The option of the market to balance economy and make different choices. So that, and they're happy to go into archers early if they need to, or play a scout war. So that could very much be the possibility.
Right. And we're going to figure that out right after this break, as we have one more ad coming up, and then we'll get into the next game.
And now, a word from our partners. The rise of modern technology takes its toll on all of us. Hours and hours at your desk leads to stiff necks, aching shoulders, sore lower backs. But there is a solution. Back Force. The Back Force 1 Plus doesn't just stand like a rock on the digital battlefield, it transforms the way you sit. With Gamer Pulse LED lighting lasting up to 20 hours, this chair is more than just a seat. It's a throne. Personalize it with patches for your nickname, clan tag, or any custom text. Because your chair should be as unique as you are. Every Backforce chair comes in a wide variation in colors, including this noble white and gold or black and gold colorway, and the Gamerlegion Special Edition. Sit like a king with Backforce.
Welcome back to the Noble Apartment Cup, where I believe, if not just the both of us, but every single person in chat manifests a Dry River game that will get it. And that's all I want today.
I think we believe.
Game. Okay. I know we believe. It's a matter of whether or not everybody at home believes. So do you believe? That's the question.
Most importantly, it's a matter of whether Hearttt believes.
Yeah, that's true, too.
He did pick it, so he kept the dream alive.
There's got to be something there, right? There's got to be something there.
And, even if we don't get it for this game, we'll have it for Game 5, potentially.
Potentially, but that's the thing. Then it puts the onus, it puts the pressure on Hearttt to get it done, even things up at 2-2, and push us to a fifth and final game in the series. And we did already lose the dream of a 25-game day with a 3-1 series just a moment ago, but we could get 24. We could get 24 in Dry River. We'll be where we're heading for game number 4. Hearttt in the red up against ACCM in the blue. It's Romans versus Dravidians.
Okay, interesting civ picks here. And on this map, you have the shorefish in the middle, and it's very important to get your mills in the middle in a good spot so that you can collect that fastest food source in the game.
Quickly making their way out there, and so ACCM has found his ideal position. Hearttt as well, finding a solid position between two pawns. No surprises so far. Scouts will come out looking for a little bit of information and pushing of those ostriches. More food.
I wonder if both of these civs could open militia into men-at-arms. Both of them are infantry civs.
They definitely could.
Romans might have a bit of a mid-feudal advantage with that blacksmith armor, applying double for them.
Yeah.
But early on, we're going to have the Dravidians getting all that extra wood, enabling them to get the barracks out, and potentially some type of archery range barracks composition.
Right, but I guess my question would be, do you want to play into something that your opponent, as you mentioned, can quickly gain an advantage in the next, in that next stage? If we're both going to be playing men-at-arms and yours are just going to be better, it doesn't feel like a long-term solution, right? It might be maybe a transitional element here for the Dravidians player, as once again, staying true to the series, Hearttt will get just a slightly faster click up to the feudal age. One extra vil, though, in the pocket of ACCM.
Right, but the thing about this map is it can be over so quickly if you push your opponent off of those fish. You might not give the Romans time to build a blacksmith and do the armor upgrade.
It's a very, very good point. More villagers coming out into forward barracks. I actually really like this here out of ACCM. He's not even going to bother building that one at home. Going to shorten the travel time of any produced militia and men-at-arms.
Yeah, he knows he's going to be fighting right on top of those shorefish. He's going to give the reinforcement distance as short of a distance as he can.
Okay, is scouted out, though, by his opponent. And I do believe that the barracks on the other side is going down, pretty much mirroring it in the center of the map. Oh, now I'm actually hoping for just a giant men-at-arms clash.
Actually, now I'm curious if on this map we ever see Armenians and Dark Age spears.
Oh, well, let's talk to Tato after this.
Let's talk to Tato.
He already went for one crazy strategy on this map. Maybe he'll follow it up with another one, and we could get that out of him in the future. 10 seconds away from the feudal age. The barracks will finish just in time here for Hearttt, and we'll wait to see whether or not it is going to be investment into militia. No, it's not. He's going to go for an archer play with spearmen, it looks like. Or maybe skirms, because he's not on to gold yet.
You could go either way. You just want that ranged unit to be able to fight off the militia, but here we have ACCM 3 militia, and we'll probably see him queue that men-at-arms upgrade as soon as he has the gold for it.
Yep.
There he goes.
Has been scared. There's the men-at-arms upgrade. We do have the spear garrison, so technically ACCM's unaware of what it is, but I think when you see that archery range coming down, you're probably thinking, okay, it's going to be spears and skirms or spears and archers.
Yeah, and back at home, he does have a very safe gold mine if he ever does want to make that transition onto the archers. And it looks like ACCM, going for the men-at-arms, is already adding the vils on the gold.
He also went for a blacksmith, so he did manage to get a blacksmith up. There's that
There's the
armor
armor
upgrade
right away.
already. My goodness.
And that's so important for fighting archers because if Hearttt gets archers but does not have fletching yet, they're only going to do 1 damage to the men-at-arms.
Yep, so Hearttt as well, going to work on getting his own blacksmith up at home. He's got 2 skirmishers out onto the field, but they're not yet involved in the engagement. Good walls, though, around his villagers there in the middle of the map. So great defense against solely melee units. It's going to be a tower on the side of ACCM, knowing that there could be some kind of ranged units coming forward.
And now the men-at-arms coming forward and looking for damage, but if you don't have that combination where you have the men-at-arms and an archer, or at least a skirmisher, then small walls can keep the Vil safe. Hearttt just needs to be really on point with all of the walls.
Yeah, 4th men-at-arms out onto the field. This one will get caught out. So in attempting to link it back up with the first group, he does end up being the first player to take a loss in that military count, and now is following up with an archery range of his own. Hearttt soon to find out that his opponent has already invested into a tower, won't find too much damage on those villagers collecting fish, and ultimately very safe at his own wood line back at home while having to be forced to repair just a bit.
Yeah, those skirmishers Hearttt has gotten out are going to be really valuable because now ACCM, he had been on gold. His food count, yeah, it's okay, but it's not the greatest. He has a lot of Vils on that forward shorefish that had to be garrisoned into the tower for a bit. If he just wants to go skirms, he's going to be behind in numbers.
Yeah. I don't think, though, either player's too concerned about taking game-losing damage at this point. Already it feels like this man-at-arms investment less effective in terms of the overall results. Another one going down to skirmishers of all things.
Yeah, and right now, as we look at the res collected, we do have ACCM slightly ahead with that Roman's Eco, 5% faster. Does apply to those shorefish, one of the few bonuses you actually have on shorefish nowadays. But he's just looking to pull slightly ahead with the Eco. I'm just worried about the armor composition now that the men-at-arms become a bit less useless as more and more skirms get added.
Yeah, they are still trying to find as much damage as they possibly can. Wants to make the most out of the investment that he's already made into those men-at-arms. We have a tower coming up now here for Hearttt as he looks to expand to additional pawns in the center of the map and keep that food eco rolling. Skirms coming back, great. Movement there by the scout to trap the villain, at least get 1 snipe, and now it looks like most of these men-at-arms are going to go down on the chase.
Yeah, that's a great cleanup there. And what damage did they do? They forced some walls at home. They forced some walls on the shorefish. That's about it.
Yeah, that's really about it. I think it was a total of 6 men-at-arms at this point, with 3 more now on the field.
And not just the men-at-arms, the early blacksmith and the early armor.
Exactly.
And if you're just fighting skirms against men-at-arms, the armor doesn't matter. You're doing 1 damage anyway.
Yeah, and through all of that, now you yourself are going on to skirms, but you don't have fletching, right? Your 100 food went into the armor for your men-at-arms.
And we have fletching already there for Hearttt, as he is Dravidian skirmishers too. They throw their javelins faster.
Exactly.
I think the description is fire faster, but I don't think they really fire.
No, not so much. Although, I don't know. You could ask T90 about that because he seems to have some opinions about the strength of skirmishers as compared to archers.
Yeah, let me tell you, recently I used a bow and arrow for the first time in my life.
Oh, yeah?
That is definitely more powerful than a guy throwing a javelin.
Exactly, I agree. How's your shot? You pretty accurate?
I hit the center of the target once at a Renaissance fair, so I'm good.
Was that before or after ballistics?
That was before ballistics.
Well, look at you, man.
But the target was stationary, though.
Okay, fair
ballistics
enough.
didn't matter there.
Fair enough. Okay, Vil going down to those skirmishers as the numbers continue to build up to 15, 16 now here for Hearttt, going for Town Watch as well, just to add a little bit extra safety and an early warning system for any offensive maneuvers of his opponent. Diving underneath the tower, doesn't decide to stick around because the skirms won't achieve too much there, but a great idling, right, of his opponent's eco. You talked about the difficulty ACCM's having bringing food in. He's got 4 on food currently just because they're all sitting in this tower.
Sitting in the tower, chased away from the mill. He's not going to expand out onto the mill, but this is where it gets scary. This is where he has the scouts and he's walling in the skirmishers. He's trying to trap them with the Vils. Oh, every skirm there might get cleaned.
That's
They're
actually
be trapped with the scouts.
Yeah, that's an absolutely huge play. As long as he can keep this wall alive, and he will, the minimum range is going to make it really difficult here for the skirmishers to end up trading anything back onto the scouts. Oh, but he actually gets 2 villagers through all of that.
I mean, getting the villagers is nice, but all that army lead he's been working to build up suddenly goes away with the quick walls. That is such a nice play from ACCM to trap that there directly under the tower. Still more idle time, though. Those are still vills inside the tower. They have to stay there until all the skirms are cleaned. But all of a sudden, that army advantage has just disappeared.
Yeah, it completely disappeared. Small eco advantage, though, for Hearttt in terms of working villagers and villagers on the map, as well as resources collected, right? So that's the value of that forced idle time that we're talking about, where now the Romans have fallen just slightly behind the
We saw
Dravidians.
ACCM ahead earlier. Now he's managed to fall behind. Heartt's grabbed that lead. And we'll have to see how he can transition here. We see Hearttt around 500 food, ACCM heavier on the gold, but the food is more important if you want to get that castle age timing.
I mean, yeah, Heartt's been working away on those fish essentially freely this entire game, right? Maybe these scouts can start to make him a bit more concerned or worried, but even with additional farms back at home, he's quickly racing towards castle age resources and looks to be in control of this game.
And he's gotten the spears out to help defend against the scouts. Remember, with all those palisade walls, we just saw it. It's easy to wall your vills in if you get creative and pay attention on those ponds. They're very tight spaces, and you can keep the vills safe as long as you are aware of them.
Yeah, it's just 2 weak scouts remaining on the field here. Another tower going up even, though, here for Hearttt. Just wants to make sure, look, I know I've got an advantage. I think he can sense he's got an advantage at this point and wants to keep making use of that fish economy. And through all of that, he's just 100 food away from clicking up. Has both buildings already needed in order to click up.
And we'll see him click pretty soon as he's adding in yet another mill. I like that.
Oh, actually, a bunch of archers, too.
You're staying in the middle, and you don't need to invest as much into farms. He only has 4 farms and defensive tower on the wood. He's taking stone. He can defend with towers. Doesn't need to worry about these raids. And with how open this map is, I think that tower defense is a really good investment.
This whole game is starting to look really good here for Hearttt with archers in the queue and a click to the castle age on the way. Those are going to become crossbows, and I don't know how ACCM responds to that as he's trying to make use of a heavy market use, by the way, to get his own castle age click.
Yeah, and that's what we saw earlier, that imbalance in the economy. Hearttt had the food, ACCM had the gold, so he has to use the market to make up for that.
Okay, through all of this, we have 42 vills on the side of Hearttt. We've got 38 on the side of ACCM. Higher military count overall for the Dravidians player, but I'd say that neither player possesses a super deadly army composition, at least until those archers start making their way across the map.
Yeah, but still, tower defense also from ACCM, ready to deal with any army that comes forward. I'm just looking at that res collected. Hearttt up by about 600 to 700 resources now. ACCM just now doing double bit axe. He'll be slower to the castle age. Scouts not finding vill picks, just going down. That's the risky thing. When you only have 1 or 2 scouts, the vills can fight you off pretty effectively.
Horse collar now coming in for Hearttt.
And importantly, that's horse collar before he's added the farms.
Yeah.
ACCM has been farming for a while now.
He added just the necessary amount to get himself to that 800 food count. But yeah, the primary source of food income here for Hearttt has been the fish in the center of the map. A great spot for these skirms to stand. I mean, attacking the stable right now, but if he just targets a couple of those farms, continues to idle more of the eco here from ACCM.
Now the tricky thing comes as you transition to the castle age. You're the Dravidians. You don't have knights.
Yeah.
You have elephants, but you can't upgrade the elephants. They're not good. What do you do here? You pretty much have to play your archery range. Skirm, crossbow, potential for elephant archer, but they really aren't that mobile on this map.
Yeah, crossbow going to be the first click just because he already has the numbers with those archers. A second tower being forced out as Hearttt considers diving underneath, looking to punish with a couple more Vil kills. I mean, this is going to just further extend the eco advantage. By the way, back at home, dropping a second TC, his third going out into the center of the map. He's not going to let go of those fish until the map is dry.
Well, it already is dry. If it were just called river, we'd have some docks and fishing ships in the middle.
Dry river with ponds, I guess, is how this map should be renamed. Okay, but like you said, no knights at the disposal of the Dravidians player, and that is one of the advantage of having the Romans on your side, is you can get these knights out in response to both the crossbows and the skirmishers. A pikeman now for Dravidians will have to be the answer to the knights of all things.
And it's tricky because they're so much slower, and in small numbers, knights can win those fights. And also, with the tower defense, knights can jump under the towers much better than your crossbow or skirm army can.
Absolutely. Luckily, we do have those 3 TCs to provide some safety to Vils in important areas of the map, but this is a great cleanup here for the first 3 knights onto the field. We have one of the armor upgrades in husbandry just about to complete as well, making the chases that much easier to execute. But what a find!
TC.
Another denied TC. I can respect chasing the villagers for this period of time, but what you've done is you've allowed the 5 villagers in the tower to hop back out and maybe get that TC completed. Maybe reconsidering and having dove that tower could have been the right play.
He got 2 kills there, and he's continuing to run around, denying that stone. And look at the Vil difference now, 55 to 39. I think Hearttt has found himself in a really good position on this map. My question now is just, what does he do to transition and close this out without access to those knights?
Yeah, not just the build difference, but the worker efficiency, right? We see idle eco constantly here on the side of ACCM. There's far more resources coming in for the Dravidians player, and it's the Romans who have that overall eco bonus, which normally would sport them a solid advantage.
Right. I think it's just key how throughout this game, ACCM has not been able to take the shorefish and use that Roman's advantage on the shorefish. He's constantly been in his base where that advantage isn't paying off as much on the farms.
Now, this is a very comfortable position, I think, here for Hearttt at this point. He's got the counter unit to the knights out onto the field. Of course, mobility still works in favor of the knights, so he'll have to do a good job tracking those. But we saw Town Watch come in earlier, which will give him slightly earlier warning to maneuver those pikemen into position. And at this point, you've got nearly double the eco of your opponent. You do have double the military count. It's feeling like the kind of position that you now start to play slow and steady. It's about minimizing mistakes and not giving your opponent windows to get back into it.
Yep, we have a bit of a raid there, but under the TC, Hearttt and Garrison will lose a couple Vils, but eventually the Knights have to run away. We saw him also adding in a monastery at home, and we'll see if he can get some conversions, as I do see some blue dots flashing in his base. There are some raids coming in, and on the gold mine, looks like he wasn't fully walled around his base and didn't have a tower there, so has to run and get some idle time now. And this is ACCM's way back into the game, using the Knights, using the mobility to pick Hearttt apart in different parts of his base.
Absolutely. Those are the moments he needs to find, but he needs to find about 10 more of those moments. It feels like, even just to bring this, to reel this game back into, you know, a winnable position or a contestable position. I do like the Scorpions, though, actually a lot. As an addition here, obviously, Romans, cheap Scorpions. We saw the power that they can, you know, pack in the series between Tato and the Viper, and ultimately just really good against the composition of the Dravidians. Crossbows and pikemen, they're going to fold to a solid mass of Scorpions.
Even elephants. Scorpions have an attack bonus against elephants, and no knights, no camels. We can't see what Viper did in that Romans game earlier, just trying to get the Cav Mass to overwhelm the Scorpions. I think it's going to be really tricky for the Dravidians. They do have Siege Onager, but no Siege Engineers. That's really expensive for a 1v1 in really late game.
Yeah, third TC now going down here for ACCM as he tries to keep pace with the villagers being produced over by his opponent. But while all that's happening, I'm taking a look at the stone count. I see 747 in the bank here for Hearttt. The question is, where does the castle go? I think it's defensive. I think it's defensive.
Defending where, though? Defending his gold at home or defending some shorefish?
Now, that is a good question. I want to say more towards the center of the map, defending the shorefish, because I think you're already working towards second castle stone. So you start creeping forward, I think, with the castles.
Oh, no. Hey, you're wrong. He's going very far forward.
Okay, not creeping. We are sprinting forward for the
dashing forward for the castle.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, lordy lord. And this can be a scary moment. Again, it is a 32 military, 212. It's going to be spotted out pretty quickly here, but I think with the number of crossbows, pikes, and that mangonel, a monk as well in tow, that this should pretty safely go up.
He's reading the game, reading the military count, and saying, you know what? I'm safe. I can do this. I can go aggressive. I can put it right on ACCM's face.
Yeah, that's a get out of my game castle, it feels like, if I've ever seen one.
And look at the map this time. 2 golds to the northeast of that castle. Finally, it's going to be Hearttt controlling golds from ACCM.
Yeah, that's
And a
true.
stone.
Shoes on the other foot this time, buddy. We got Wheelbarrow coming in for both players. ACCM looking for counterattack damage, right? I think he realizes, okay, I can't take that fight straight up. I recognize my opponent's trying to force that fight, but it's only a losing fight for me. So once again, returning to that win condition that we cited. Get into the back of the eco, make a mess of it, try and put your Hearttt in the position where he has to chase you down versus you having to go contest him.
Oh, and ACCM trying to sneak to those golds anyway, getting around that castle at the same time. Heartt's already walled there, and he's getting the Scorpions cornered by the pikemen. And oh, that's a great fight to be able to pick the Scorpions first and then still chase the Knights down. He has enough pikemen there that the Knights can't take that fight.
Yeah, running into walls and pikemen, no fun when you're the Knight player. Even microing in here to get rid of these Scorpions. He's applying the constriction, right? Looking like a boa constrictor. Everything's now isolated to this kind of corner of the map. Yes, extra TCs going up on the wings for some important resources, but Imperial Age is on the way with still 30 eco advantage and 3 times ACCM's military count.
And this is going to be really scary. As soon as he gets Imp, they'll do the upgrades on the Arbalests, Bracer, Chemistry, and be ready to just tear everything apart with the crossbows. And oddly enough, once you get all those upgrades, crossbows to Arbalests do a lot of damage to TCs. Even if he doesn't have the mobility of Knights to take out TCs, he can do his Siege Workshops and complement them with the Arbalests to push ACCM out of his main base and perhaps out of the game.
Yeah, I think this could be a situation where Imp comes in and you call the GG just because you already know you're behind in that military count. You know we're close to clicking up yourself. You're losing one of your TCs to the Castle Fire. Like you say, you'll soon lose the next two to Trebs and Arbalests. It's a tough situation to find any kind of source, any source of recourse.
Yeah, and even going to lose more Vills in the middle. Oh, that's a nice play with the crossbows. The pikes are right there to defend against the Knights. And, I mean, I know this is ACCM. Maybe he called GG once he sees the Imp come in.
Yeah, exactly. I think, you know, ACCM, sometimes known for playing beyond maybe what we would believe as a reasonable win condition, but this is one where I feel like you could pretty safely say there's not much of an avenue back.
Yeah, and it just, I love the way Hearttt has played this, and I love the Elephant Ram edition on the market. Just right from the beginning of the game, got the skirmishers out. Maybe the only thing we could say is he got trapped in that quick wall at one point. Other than that, felt like everything he did was on point. He's well practiced for this as his home map. And do we see a GG?
Do we see it?
Do we see it?
Maybe not.
ACCM adjusts his glasses.
Oh, yes,
And
we do. There it is. GG is called. We're all tied up at 2-2. We're going to a 5th and final game, and we already know that it will take place on the final home map of Hearttt in Bypass.
And again, Game 5 on Bypass. We saw a crazy one earlier between Doubt and Dogao.
Settle in. Could be a long one. Settle in. Could be a long one.
I love this map. It's the most clown map we have, and we still have Malay left.
I'm super partial to this map as well. You may have noticed we just went silent, but that's because for both of us, we were being delivered a beautiful compliment. We were listening to production who just informed us that a €240 donation came through, and with it was a very, very kind message complimenting the two of us on our first ever cast together.
Thank you very much for that donation, and thank you very much for production for telling us about that.
Seriously, that's a good boost to the ego, but more importantly, it goes directly into that live prize pool that you see above us, supporting the players.
Just went up.
Yeah, love to see it, especially rewarding players that deliver series like this, right? Because that's the thing. As the days roll on, the players are warming up and ramping up in the tournament. We're starting to get more competitive series. We're seeing more of them go to 5 games. This one to be included, and we still have 2 more series to go today.
We do. It's going to be a long day for us.
Woo!
And we're still not done with ACCM. In
No?
Bypass, we could see a game where Hearttt pushes ACCM.
I hope you're ready.
ACCM runs around the map.
I hope you're ready.
Hours.
Could be 3 hours, y'all. Everybody take a moment. Stretch, grab some water, whatever it is, and then lock in. We're going to take a quick break, maybe grab a sip of water ourselves, because who knows? We could be going for the long haul in this next one. See you in just a bit.
And now, a word from our partners. Tired of interruptions ruining your moment of peace? Discover true tranquility with the Hammer Bluetooth headphone Passion Voyage. With cutting-edge noise cancellation, immersive sound, and unmatched comfort in every note. Sounds like more Hammer.
Welcome back to the Noble Apartment Cup. I gotta say, those commercials are never gonna get old for me. I absolutely adore them, and I've been kind of giving out little bits of behind-the-scenes info to people all throughout the tournament. I'm willing to bet most people don't know that T90 is actually the one who did the voiceover for all the pet sounds that you hear in each of these.
You know, when they remastered AoE 2 and they made the definitive edition, T90 is the one who does the camel sounds.
Exactly, right. He's trying to kickstart his voiceover career. I think there's a solid opening in the animal noise space,
Right.
and so that's really what he's kind of targeting as his in. We're happy to provide him a platform to launch his eventual voiceover career, and at the same time give us an opportunity, a platform to launch our duo career. Here, a
Absolutely.
Game 5 ACCM Hearttt. It's almost like it was meant to be that we go to a fifth game.
A fifth game on a map that can last a long time for ACCM, and a fifth game that I'm actually kind of surprised to see Hearttt pick this as his home map.
Yeah.
As we've mentioned, it's a closed map, a clown map as we might call them. Not really what we see him play that often. We saw that set against Leary earlier.
Yeah.
Where it was just kind of a boom game. Not what you usually expect on Bypass.
Exactly. So refresher, by the way, for everybody, Bypass will be the map. We have 2 civs available for each player. We already know that it's Turks and Bohemians on the side of ACCM. Very similar civs in being unique unit focused and gunpowder focused. On the other side, we have Saracens and
Malay.
Malay, thank you
Very
so much.
first pick.
Oh, if it's the first pick, it feels like you almost have to use it. Granted, the first pick does come in before any of the maps are known. So while a lot of times it's a power pick, sometimes it might not end up suiting the map pool at all.
But there's a reason you pick Malay. Not only are they good on the water maps, they're also good on Bypass.
Okay.
They are a very good arena civ, very good monks, very good economy for it, and with their faster age ups, they go to the Imperial Age so quickly they can win those Treb wars early on, sometimes even before the other civs can get to their gunpowder.
And of course, Saracen's very versatile, right? You can always fall back on that market usage and a number of viable strategies for the Saracens. But if it is the first pick Malay, does that push you in one direction or the other on the Turks Bohemians decision?
That's a good question. I feel like Turks and Bohemians both are pretty similar.
They're
on this
pretty
map.
much the same.
I feel like the one thing Bohemians do maybe a bit better are the monks.
Okay.
So if you want to go for a monk complement to your unique unit, then you probably want to go Bohemians. And also just the threat of if gold does kind of run out on the map, then Bohemians might have that better late game with the option to go for the Halbs. Turks have that great Hussar line, but again are limited to spears and to skirms only without the pikemen or elite skirm upgrades.
You know what I'd love is for us to get a shot inside the player room, and right as you say that, we see ACCM with a coin, just flipping it. Just flipping it. Just seeing what it comes up as. Either way, we'll have our answers soon enough as the players load in. Malay, Saracens, Turks, Bohemians, ACCM versus Hearttt. Hearttt can have maybe the confidence of getting to close the series out on his home map. But like you say, in a number of ways, it almost feels like a style of map that could favor or, again, provide some level of comfortability to ACCM.
I feel like in this matchup, Heartt's best home map would have just been Arabia.
Right. Of course, we don't have map bans on this screen, so obviously that one was made unavailable to a player like Hearttt, and I would say that's a wise decision from ACCM if he did so.
And, well, do you have any preference on Malay or Saracens? I think you could get really creative with Saracens, but Malay are probably just overall the better civ.
I'd probably go Malay, especially because I want to see Hearttt make use of those crazy uptimings to maybe to be aggressive. In very much the way we saw, who was it against Doubt? Playing Spanish. Vinch against Doubt, playing Spanish.
In the
right. Obviously, that wasn't because he was playing Malay and had fast up timings, but as we dive into the game itself, we are on to Bypass. We have ACCM in the blue. We have Hearttt in the red. It is going to be the Turks on the side of ACCM, so we have our answer there.
And both of us don't recognize that civ icon for Hearttt, do we?
No, we don't, but I'm going to assume it's the Malay.
Looks like
it is the
Malay.
Malay. Okay. So we kind of got what we wanted in a lot of ways, but this even goes more to my point, right? We can very much assume how the Turks want to play. And so I think the question is, does Hearttt want to go for early, quick aggression to try and disrupt that initial castle placement, to try and kind of pen his opponent, contain him, or is he going to choose to make use of those timings for a better boom and say, you know what, I'm actually going to play to expand around to the sides and ultimately absorb the concentrated push of the Janissaries and the bombard cannons and tribs.
That you could always go for a tower rush as the melee if you wanted to be aggressive there, because of first that fast up timing, you get the tower up rather quickly, and second, because you can feudal boom and get to the castle age without being trapped in the feudal age.
Right, and it's important to remind people the actual bypass the central part of the map. Right, you can't build a castle there, but you could come forward with villagers, start battering through those walls, and initiate the tower rush like you're talking about.
Exactly, and if we look at ACCM's base for a moment, it looks like his stone and his golds are all pretty far
They are forward
to the top right of his base, and I think that could make any type of aggression from Hearttt in the Castle Age really hard to defend, as Janissaries don't even need to break in through that wall, and I think they can still hit that gold.
I'm not going to lie, that's very similar positioning of resources to the Spanish-Turks game that we saw, where it was a gold position that was easily threatened by conks coming through those walls nice and early. So we'll see if Hearttt would have to recognize this, right? And I don't know if those resources are within range of the scout vision pressed up against the wall.
And remember, your scout gets more vision in the feudal age than it does in the dark age, so you do have options maybe just to engage in a scout fight in the middle of the map to stop that scout from getting that line of sight.
Exactly. Ooh, rushing up a house here.
We've seen players housed a couple of times.
Yeah, but he's already on the way to the feudal age, so it's not like...
He's on stone.
Oh, we know where... Okay, here we go, friends.
That was just I'm on my way to Trush, and I need to wait to be up house.
Yeah, absolutely. Buying a little bit of time for those last few seconds to come through on the feudal age, and boom, we see the tower placement. It's going to be 5 vills invested into this rush. So damage will have to be found, right? Because it's quite an early uptime, and it's quite a number of villagers that are no longer working on your economy.
Right, and ACCM just now doing Loom in the Dark Age, going to go for a second layer of Palisade Walls, send 5 villagers. That's a lot of idle time to invest there to wall that off. But he hasn't even clicked up to Feudal yet. It's going to be a long time before he can do stone walls or a defensive tower.
Yeah, Loom, Feudal, tower goes up, perfect timing on the Palisade walls. By the way, the 3rd layer of walls, which I do love to see. I think the worst thing you can do, right, is underreact to this.
And he needs to be so careful not to lose vills here. You need to micro them and find the one the tower's shooting and run it away. Try not to get caught on your other vills too. There's a low HP vill there. They're all really low. And the problem is, if you're clicking up, you have 23 total vills. Now 5 of them are injured. That's 5 vills. When you eventually do your defensive tower, you got to make sure they're collecting resources in the back of your base. You're going to soon run out of vills that have HP to commit to the tower fights.
Yeah, gate going down. If Heartt's trying to find his fastest pathway through, it's going to be the one with the uncompleted wall, but more vills coming forward. This is what I like to see out of ACCM, right? He's not going to just sit here and rely on the 3 layers of wall that he's created. He's going to commit more vills to keeping his opponent outside of his base.
And here he's had to pick 3 more villagers to try to get this up.
Ooh. Do we have our first kill?
It's going to be close. He needs to go. Yes,
There's
we
one.
do.
Okay.
There we go. And that's the struggle. Now he is 1 vill dead. 7 out of 22 vills already have lost a lot of HP. He has maybe 1/3 of his eco that can't be engaged in this tower fighting anymore.
Okay, and now even forcing a defensive tower out of ACCM. But again, what I want to see in terms of keeping your eco alive, but 10 vills pulled essentially to get this one up. Another tower even being placed now for Hearttt back at home. He's building up a bit of a vill advantage. And so while there are 5 forward, he almost has a 5 vill lead back at home.
And he has the eco upgrades.
Right.
He has double bit axe, he has horse collar, and he has horse collar for all of those farms he's been adding in.
Mm-hmm. No fletching just yet, so these towers are equivalent towers. And let the tower war begin.
Well, fletching does not actually matter for the tower
for the tower itself. Right. That's a good point.
It would sniping the vills, it does.
That are trying to repair.
Right. It actually makes your tower shoot fewer arrows if you don't fully garrison it with vills.
Amazing. That I did not know.
It is a
Did he
weird
just send more
calculation.
vills forward to Garrison? I think I saw it just...
He did. If he's
Yeah,
able to shoot
now got
that tower
7.
with 2, then he's going to knock it down really quickly.
Yep. And this allows one to continue applying pressure to the tower itself, another one to make it hard for it to be repaired. This is not a position I envy that ACCM is in, but I do think he's dealt with it quite well so far.
He's dealt with it as well as he could have. Maybe he could have thought about walling it up more in the Dark Age. We have seen players go forward in the Dark Age with vills to get that first layer of palisades right outside of your opponent's base. There is some vill fighting component to this map that maybe he didn't explore.
Right, maybe a Sixth Sense was needed in order for that to have happened. Trying to get down another tower, but Fletching has come in, and now all of a sudden, it's a lot more dangerous for any of these. I want to see the collective health of all of ACCM's villagers.
That's hard.
There are so many. There are so many
weak ones
vills
now.
that are one hit away from going down, one volley of arrows away from losing their lives.
Yeah, and you're just constantly trying to find vills that have HP. You see that one turning into a farmer, but
Yep.
all the vills under the TC constantly being reorganized just because ACCM needs ones that can go to the towers. Ooh, that is a forward farm there.
All right, it's a 2v2 in the tower war. Some more repairs come through for the Malay. Some more come through for the Turks over here. I'm not really sure who's going to come out on top in all of this when it comes to the battle. But again, I think the Malay are super happy to have a 3-villager lead, to have the earlier eco upgrades right now. While they have been matched, they've been in effect for longer. And ultimately, the resources collected, while slightly ahead, should continue to climb.
Right, and they're going to have that faster castle age now since they have that quicker upgrade.
Exactly that. Yeah, wheelbarrow coming in now. No vills or 1 vill on gold, so going to need a little bit more time to get to those Castle Age resources. ACCM is going to have to move outside of his walls to get onto gold himself.
Yep, you always do have that back gold on this map, but the stone position is crucial as a couple more towers, and all of a sudden, if those towers go down for ACCM, he's not going to have that stone to take for his castle.
A 3rd tower. Look at the commitment to this position here by Hearttt.
Now, the hard thing is he doesn't have an archery range, so he's not going to be able to garrison them with anything other than vills. And if you are going to commit to that triple tower, all of a sudden you need 15 vills to garrison and shoot the max number of arrows.
That's a really good point.
It's a big commitment.
Okay, market going up at home as well, so definitely considering that transition to the Castle Age brings a few villagers back to mine a bit more stone, 6 on stone at the time being, but very far away from being able to drop a castle.
Now, I wonder how many tiles of wall he's broken through. Remember, in the initial wall, you can't actually have space for a castle there. I wonder how close he is to being able just to delete some towers and build that castle forward.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, 1,
He
2,
destroyed the
3,
gate.
but he would still need to even make
one
more
more.
space there, and then you need a total of 4 tiles. So we're looking at 6, 7 palisade walls that still need to go down in order to place a castle effectively, unless, like you say, he wants to delete his towers to get that extra row.
Right, and he could also go for a workshop at home and just send mangonels or rams forward to get through some palisades and make some space.
Castle Age on the way, minute 30 on the clock. Now, ACCM is close to clicking up himself, but even if he clicks, 10, 20 seconds behind, his research time is much, much longer.
Right, and you feel so good to be Malay and click first.
Oh my God, it's an amazing feeling. Of course, there's always that small caveat, which is because you go up so quick, you have to acknowledge what resources will be banked when you get there, right? I think it's very easy to kind of fall into the rhythm of what would be a normal research time, and with your certain eco distribution, you're like, okay, I should have about, I'm Castle
I
Age.
don't have it.
Yeah, wait.
But look at that, 11 vills on stone. He's
Yep.
not going to quite have the stone for a castle, but he's going to be really close to it. Same thing for ACCM, but he's going to be so much slower to the castle. And if Hearttt can find a good position for the castle and get some aggression with it, I think he's going to be really happy.
Wow, look at these conservative walls from ACCM back at home. Wildly conservative walls. I mean, you're getting pushed up the gut in the middle, and you still don't feel like you can stretch out and gain any space along the edges of the map. You're just trying to protect that gold. Just protect that gold.
To be honest, I would have loved if we had seen a bunch of villagers walking around the outside of the map from Hearttt to do a castle on the other side.
That could have been pretty ingenious as well, right? While you've got his focus on the bypass, you come around and start knocking. Oh, Scout gets in, but it does have low health, and it doesn't have any upgrades.
trapped now.
It is trapped.
I don't think Hearttt was expecting to find his scout trapped, but Now ACCM is going to have the Turk scout. He could probably fight that with the villager.
How about this? So Hearttt had enough stone for a castle. Opts for a TC first.
TC. And he's going to find an extra gold outside of his walls. Gets a Vil pick with that scout.
Oh, wow, what a pick.
And the question is, where does the castle go now?
I don't know, because I don't think he wants to delete these towers, and he still hasn't made the space for it. And so then you're just looking for, like you said, the mass exodus of through the base to the outsides, and look at that. Both are going for defensive castle setups.
So we're not going to see an aggressive siege or a petard war with the castles. Just going to do it at home. He will get the relic from the middle. And now we're just looking, how do you go imp and do a treb war?
Well, and it's looking like ACCM is going to be clicking not long after that castle goes up. Look at how much food is in the bank. Almost has enough gold already. Now, of course, the Malay, right? You could click a minute later and still match the timing.
But the Turks probably the stronger imp civ.
Oh, definitely.
That free chemistry. They build a workshop, and all of a sudden, they have bombard cannons with the option for artillery for extra range.
And then, of course, you know, if you need a little bit of a cav support, you've got the light cav turning into hussar for free as well. There's a lot of power in the age up for the Turks that comes inherently with it. The power of the Malay age up is how quickly it comes, but you still have to then invest into the upgrades of that age.
And here we have imp clicked right away for ACCM. He's cleaning the towers with that castle, and at least what the towers do is they bought some bit of a buffer so that ACCM wasn't able to come forward in the castle age. But now that buffer's gone, he's up to imp, and we're going to see Janissaries and then Trebs.
I don't know what the answer is going to be here now for Hearttt. I'm really concerned that castle is going to be under immediate threat, and in a way, because you invested in a second TC, you are inadvertently delaying your own imp timing.
Exactly. The second TC makes you spend food on Vils. Eventually you'll have the eco, but it needs to pay off.
Yeah, he's idling now. I think maybe he senses it, that he needs to make his way up to the Imperial Age. So no more villagers in the queue. We do have some relics coming back. That'll be a nice addition to the gold income over time. Barracks finally coming up as well.
And ooh, that scout could pick off the monk if he's paying attention, and
Great find.
He is.
Great find. Okay, so with that, look, imp resources, and it's just going to be about a 30-second differential.
Well, 30 seconds can matter.
Absolutely.
Can matter a lot.
Is the siege workshop already down, or are we looking to put one down here for the Turk player?
There it is.
There it is. Oh, he's ready. He's ready.
And of course, remember, you can't build any walls directly across the middle, so there's no stopping the siege from coming forward and being in range of your castle.
All right. And so how do you deal with Trebs, Janissaries, and bombard cannons?
It's tricky. One of your options is monks. You can do block printing monks. You can do redemption. Try to convert the cannons. The monks will at least have the same range as them before artillery comes in. Okay,
so yeah, a couple monks in the Q3 on the field already. Just putting a little bit of investment into the Karambit warriors.
Right.
They can be a great way to eliminate a few of those Trebs if they're left unattended and unprotected.
But that's tricky when you see the Janissaries.
Gunpowder, right?
And right now we already have 10 Janissaries for ACCM.
First
they will melt Karambits.
Yeah, first Treb in the queue, just a few more resources, and boom, now a bombard cannon will follow. We'll expect to see those roll forward and start pressuring the castle position here from Hearttt, a university on the way for Hearttt Redemption. Love to see it. Maybe block printing to follow with another monastery coming up back at home.
Yeah, we see the monks, and ooh, that Hussar picking off one of those monks on the outside. Hearttt has been trying to sneak to those relics, and he did get 3 of them.
Yeah, and actually, how about this move? As opposed to keeping the Karambit warriors in the center for perhaps a little bit of a snipe on the siege, he's going to run them around and start making, knock on the walls.
Knock on the walls, make the palisades pay off. But if ACCM, for one moment, he doesn't pay attention, all of a sudden, the Karambits get in, kill all the Vils on that gold.
Exactly. So the Treb begins its assault. The monks start to come forward and think better of it with the Janissaries out onto the field and showing themselves. We've got chemistry coming in, block printing on the way here for Hearttt. He still does have a 21 villager lead. So once again, it feels like ACCM is on the clock.
And Hearttt is very low on stone here. Only 4 Vils on that forward stone mine. And he's in the position you don't want to be in, trying to hit an enemy Treb with your Treb. They're very inaccurate, and it takes 3 shots to destroy a Treb. So as long as ACCM repairs, he should be fine. He's trying to pick Janissaries maybe, though.
Yeah, and he's just barely keeping his own Treb alive with repairs against that Bombard Cannon. Now block printing's in, so he's going to move forward and try and push things back. There's the redemption. He swaps one, and he gets both.
He gets both. Oh, ACCM, that's... So what Hearttt did there, he started charging the conversions on the Janissaries as ACCM pulled them back. He swapped to the cannons. He maintained the conversion charge he already had and was able to get those fast conversions.
Yeah, this is massive. It relieves a lot of pressure while there still is that singular Treb applying pressure to the castle and a lack of stone for repairs.
Needs to buy stone.
He's got to buy. There it is. There's 100 in the bank. He's going to go back immediately to repairing. Now villagers have come forward to repair this Treb of all things. We have another Bombard Cannon on the field rolling forward, but still, these are block printing mucks. Like you said, it's the perfect counter at the moment.
And in this narrow passageway, that's where monks shine. You don't have room to flank them with cav or hit them from anywhere outside of the castle. There's that one Hussar. If there's a conversion on the Hussar, and there is, that's huge. There's no more unit to counter the monks.
Exactly, and we still have 2 monks with faith. Now they are being closed in on by the Janissaries, diving underneath castle fire. Okay, Bombard Cannon forward. The lack of stone is hurting, and now he's going to have to split focus between repairing his own Trebs, repairing his own castle, and trying to keep resources in the bank to do both at the same time. Hasn't had a successful trade onto any of these trebuchets either. 2 of them now applying even more pressure. 20 stone in the bank, a very low health castle at that. If this castle goes down, that might be it here for Hearttt. It's going to be difficult. He's in full retreat mode, needs to get back to the TCs, and might lose at least one of those trebuchets along the way.
Now, he has a much higher Vil count now, 73 to 48, but it's hard to make a cheap unit that can fight Janissaries. If you want to go crossbow into Arb, which it looks like he's doing, you need upgrades for them. And right now, he only has fletching.
Yeah, only has fletching and only has 1 crossbow. He's trying to put up a couple more archery ranges in the back, but feeling a little bit strapped for resources and a little bit strapped for APM, right? His focus has to be everywhere. He has to be constantly threatening those conversions. Does manage to get 2, thinning the Janissary numbers just a little bit. But again, we've got 2 trebuchets and a Bombard Cannon that continue to roll forward and take away space.
And these block printing monks are so important. That TC is going to go down, and that'll give more space for the Janissaries to operate and push the monks even farther back. And now the Janissaries are underneath the monasteries where they can pick off more monks as they pop out.
Yeah.
Oh, a Karambit going for a cannon, though.
Okay, will he get it? He is. Okay, nice. That one, that's a homie of a Janissary right there, turning around. I got you, bro.
Yeah, that's the Turks having extra HP on their Bombard Cannons, too, helping out there.
Okay, and these are a lot of exposed villagers. Right now they're working away on gold, but we talk about having a 20 vil lead. That could quickly disappear if any of these are left unattended. We're on the run now.
And the Karambits are out there on the other side. How much gold does ACCM have left in his base, though? Remember, the Turks mine gold faster, which also means they run out faster.
Oh, still 3,000.
3,000 there still.
Plenty to go, because he did make use of that outside gold initially, so can really make use of the main gold now. And as quickly as those archery ranges went up, they're starting to go down. It's going to be really difficult to get the proper crossbow numbers with the proper crossbow upgrades to deal with this push.
Yeah, but still, it is a 20 vil lead for Hearttt, and it is a 5k resource collected advantage for him. He's still working with his vils. He just needs to find some way to clear those Janissaries. I mean, ACCM has 10 Janissaries. That's it. That's his entire army. He can't afford to add more. And as those crossbows, they start to get Bracer, maybe they can threaten them. They don't need to pick them off all at once. They just need to whittle their numbers down 1 or 2 here and there.
Exactly. Bracer, no ballistics yet. Look at these conversion opportunities, though. We'll see how many come through. That's at least 2 Janissaries and a Bombard Cannon and a 3rd Janissary. That's as good as it gets there for the monk trade. And now the crossbows feel like, yes, we can dive in. We can look for the trades as Bracer completes.
And I think he needs to focus the Janissaries here, but he gets another cannon. And there goes the army. ACCM.
Ooh, Vils forward.
Vils, where are those Vils going?
That feels like a misclick. Oh, no. They went through this. He went for the castle, and they went through the center of the map for the shortest route. That's going to sting a little bit.
He wanted the castle on the outside, but they didn't go on the outside. I wonder if his gates were locked earlier. Maybe you're afraid of the Karambit raids.
Yeah, I don't know. It's quite a strange movement. Obviously, it wasn't intentional.
As they're just running back now. And he doesn't have that many Vils to lose.
No, he really doesn't. And all of a sudden, the military numbers look horrible for our Turk player. He still has siege to work with, but nothing to defend that siege. And this is not where you want to be. 20 Vils down and returning to base.
Absolutely not. And now, well, ACCM, he's going to hold on. Especially in Game 5, he's going to hold on.
Oh, never say
But
die.
It feels like Hearttt is in a position where now he can make some type of transition, get his eco even more well set up. But he lost the castle. He doesn't have Trebs now. He can't immediately push against ACCM. And the Turks themselves, with all those cannons, they're hard to push.
Yeah, it is a 6,500 resource collected lead, though, already at this point in the game. We do see a number of those important technologies. So what a raid. Those 3 had been sitting by the palisade walls for the last 20 minutes of the game, and then they find the castle.
He gets some value. He's going to kill those Vills. He's sending more Vills, but they might just die to the Karambits, too.
Yeah, he did get the wall up on at least the one villager.
There's one Heroville.
Yeah, exactly. And I do think there will be at least enough villagers coming forward. This castle does eventually go up. He's dropping a second TC back at home. So looking to now try and find a way to extend this game. He knows that it's no longer a centralized singular push for the win. It's about stopping the bleeding and going to 2 hours plus.
Exactly, going to 2 hours plus. But then you get to the point, the map starts running out of gold. You're the Turks. You have spears, you have skirmishers, you can't upgrade them.
Yeah,
Great hussars, but the rest of the trash line is going to be much better for the melee.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's not like Hearttt hasn't done a solid job through all of that pressure that he was absorbing to expand his own eco, right? We did mention that early second TC, and while his starting TC went down, he went and replaced it again with another. So still operating on 2 TCs of his own. He's up to a 30 villager lead. It's 41-9 in the military count. He's going to get this castle up just in time here on the bottom side of the map before the Janissaries find it. And in the meantime, rotating all those crossbows around the top side of the map to start pressuring from a different angle.
Yeah, and remember, Hearttt also collected those relics early on. He now has a 3-2 relic lead going into the late game.
With 1,000 in the bank from those relics already. Another TC being dropped on the wood line here for ACCM. It is a pretty safe TC because of its proximity to that castle.
And what does ACCM do for army here? He has 6 Janissaries, and he's just relying on those castles to keep himself safe.
You can't do anything but that at the moment. It feels like, you only have 13 on food. Right, so it's got to be single castle Janissary production and then some bombard cannons, right? Because bombard cannons are probably your best current option against groups of crossbows.
Yeah, and that's tricky because you feel like crossbows themselves can counter bombard cannons in the right situation.
Absolutely, and hey, you know what's better than crossbows? Arbalest, and that's on the way as well.
And once that comes in, the Turks, well, their main counter to that would be their hussars. They have the extra pierce armor, they get the free upgrades, but you need to commit to all of the blacksmith upgrades and have a lot of farms for that. That's not going to be an option here for ACCM.
We got 3 bombard cannons on the side of Hearttt, and he's actually saving up for another there to maybe push up the gut in the center of the map once again. Now, all that, I do see a blinking castle on the right-hand side of the map, so ACCM is still looking for ways, right? He's still looking for ways back into this game, and 2 trebuchets with a few Janissaries could be it.
At least Hearttt has a few Vills out there to repair the castle. It will go down eventually to 2 Trebs, but he can try to buy himself time to pick off the Treb.
Ooh.
Losing all those arbs, I think the bombard cannon might have picked them all off one at a time, and Hearttt just didn't pay attention.
Yeah, that's pretty tough. 1 trebuchet going down, though. Another bombard cannon out here on the right-hand side of the map. And that can't close the gap with those Janissaries to kill those bombard cannons. And oh, what a great snipe there by Hearttt to go for the cannon first and the trebuchet second.
Oh,
that's
beautiful.
Completely stopping this push in its tracks.
And what makes it even tougher to use the Janissaries now is that with the Bodkin and Bracer upgrades for the crossbows into Arbalest, they apply to the castles too. Maybe just make more space where the Janissaries can't close the distance.
Exactly. And so 3 Janissaries to his name, now 4. And maybe even less after these conversions come through. Also, correctly targeting the 2 high-health Janissaries. Love to see that.
That attention to detail is what you always have.
I'm always amazed who has the time to be checking.
It gets really tricky when the other player then tries to delete, and they try to delete the high HP units, so it's the mind game you target the low HP units to convert.
I don't think that hard about it, but yeah, if only I had the APM to make those kinds of decisions. First, we're focusing down the Siege Workshop. Next, we'll move towards the castle. Block printing Redemption Monks just make it so difficult to play with solely bombard cannons.
And he's converted.
He shot it first and then converted it.
If a projectile is in the air, when you convert something, it will damage it.
Yep.
You can convert and kill your own units.
True. We've got just a few Hussar here coming through to look to snipe that bombard cannon. May successfully do so. Just barely don't. as the repairs come through.
But Hussar on 8 villages on food, that's not going to work out.
No, struggling to see ways for ACCM to come back in this game at this point. He's just so low on the military count, so behind in the economy. And then, of course, as we said, he just doesn't have the same flexibility and options available to him militarily.
Ooh, Hearttt not paying attention, though, loses a cannon in the middle to those Hussars. And ACCM, he's going to try to hold on. He's going to do everything he can to micro those cannons. And he still has 76 vills. He's going to lose that castle, but it's not like he has 0 eco.
Right, finding some good shots here or there. Maybe that's what's convincing him to extend this one ultimately. Good Hussar raids up the middle here, right? Looking for every possible advantage, but for every vill he kills, a couple vills of his own end up going down, and losing that castle position is huge. He's got no control over the sides of the map, and he's starting to get penned in.
Yeah, and now that all the upgrades are in on the Arbalests, they're going to be a really good counter to the Janissaries.
Yeah, Arbalest looping down around here. We've got more monks coming in from behind. That's going to make it difficult once again to micro these bombard cannons against those Arbalests.
And Thumbring on the way, too. That'll make them more accurate, and it'll make them shoot faster.
Yep. Oh, more vills go down. We're getting pushed off of our gold options here. It's looking difficult. We're starting to use the market to buy food. This is tough. This is tough. And I think the reality here, right, is what we've talked about all day long, the stakes of the tournament. If there's anything keeping ACCM in this game, it's the stakes of the tournament and the ultimate scoreline, right? Yes, he does at least have 1 set win under his belt, but even dropping to 2 set losses puts you in such a precarious position. You can't make mistakes going forward from there.
And on the other side for Hearttt, he was down 0-2, but faced 2 really good opponents. Now, maybe a bit more of a fair set for him. Just to show that he has something to display in this tournament.
It breathes new life, perhaps, into his group stage run. He's going to feel, I think, very happy with his showing in the last couple of games in particular, right, to close this one out. And ultimately being able to do so on his home maps might give him the confidence in some of his picks and his strategies. Here, turning his attention onto one of the final few TCs, all 3 of them packed around this castle. Definitely still needing to deliver the killing blow. This is ACCM, as we all know. But now we're down to just 1 military unit. 2 with the second bombard cannon coming out.
And that TC is going to go down. ACCM desperately trying to repair it. There's just so many bombard cannons that are forward. And Hearttt has just played this Civ matchup, this composition, absolutely perfectly. The 3 wins that Hearttt had all felt very, very clean.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of felt that way throughout the whole series, right? And there's something beautiful about that, there were highs for both players. Like, they showed what they're capable of in their best moments. Hearttt just had one better moment. You know what I mean?
He did. I feel like ACCM pulling out that win on
Tide
Pool. There we go with the GG.
Yeah.
Was pretty impressive. And it's great to push this to 5 games. But congrats to Hearttt.
Ooh, that was a pretty dap up right there.
It was.
Beautiful sound. Great sportsmanship from the players. You can see a sigh of relief from Hearttt there. That is a lot of stress and anxiety leaving the body, keeping his tournament hopes alive and giving himself a much better opportunity to book a spot to the playoffs. A lot of work to do still. Journey's not done, but that was massive.
Right, and remember, top 6 make the playoffs. You can be 1-2 now, and your hopes are still alive. You can be 2-3 and still have potential to make it in. And we have now ACCM, Hearttt, and Doubt, all of whom are 1-2.
Yeah, 2 and 3 can make it. It's made it in the past in terms of the top 6, but it's not guaranteed, right? So again, 3 wins is kind of the magic number. If you can get yourself there, then there's almost no scenario where you fall out, unless there's some really wonky math that tie breaks one person out.
Then that's exactly what you're going to have if you have 2 wins. You're relying on your Buchholz then to win that tiebreaker against anyone else who has 2 wins.
So a very, very solid victory there for Hearttt. Another 5-game series for us, y'all. 5-4-5. It's heating up today, and we've got another couple banger matchups ahead of us.
We do. We're only 3/5 of the way through the sets today.
Leary Yo, Hera Vinch. Are you casting one of those two series?
I'm casting Hera Vinch. Are you
Oh,
casting
what a
one
way
of
to
those?
close it out. I'm sticking around for the fourth set of the day with Mem, but of course, we're not going there until we hear from our victor in just a moment. I do see them getting set up for the interview, but I'm going to be very, very curious to hear what Hearttt has to say in his first winners interview, to kind of take stock of where he's at in the tournament, how he feels about the performance that he just put up in that victory.
Exactly. This will be his first interview, so I'm excited to hear his take on how this tournament's going for him.
All right, well, I think we're all set up. Hopefully. I don't want to throw before I'm told we're ready to go and end up springing this on anybody.
I did have production put the earpiece on my ear. It fell out, and they swapped me for my interview. So let's make sure they're ready.
Yeah. You never want to catch somebody unprepared on a broadcast. That's cruel. That's cruel.
I am kind of disappointed we're not going to see ACCM's Christmas sweater on the interview, though.
You know what? I'm sure he'll make an appearance over there on the couches at some point. We'll get another couple good looks at that sweater. It sounds like they're ready, so let's head over to Ellie, who's standing by with Hearttt after his first victory in the group stage.
Thanks so much. Oh my goodness, Hearttt, congratulations. I am, my heart is racing watching that, so I can't imagine how you're feeling. Let us know.
It's been a roller coaster of emotions through this set, honestly. I got so tilted after the second game, and then the third game didn't help. I had to keep my stuff together too, because I felt like my map was really bad in game 2, and I couldn't find mistakes I made, but I felt like I lost because of the map, and that just annoyed me a lot. Bad mentality, I should just move on to next, but I couldn't help it, man. I'm human, So I just tilted a little bit after that, but kept it together after, and managed to get a win.
Yeah, you mentioned the map draft generation. It was very random. We'll just switch the mics here. So they do get a little bit randomized. And same thing with the Civ draft. We have lots of bans. How happy were you with your draft?
I think this is the first set where I actually got the draft I wanted. The first two series I had, I griefed my draft one way or another. I picked a Civ and then didn't pick a map by mistake, or vice versa. It was just a hot mess, basically. So I was happy that this time around the draft went well. I got the Civs I wanted, and yeah.
Let's take a look at some of the replays here. First game, Portuguese versus Berbers. Did you think your camels were a lot better here? I know Portuguese also get a little bit of a gold discount.
Yeah, so this is a matchup I was hoping for. I wanted to get rid of his Portuguese on enclosed. There's definitely some timings that are in favor of Portuguese, but Berbers eventually they can spam more units, right? So I just had to hold till that point. At the beginning, he put a lot of aggression, but I kind of held. I'm not sure what the situation was looking like. I'm guessing I was probably even in villagers since I dropped the town center right away. But yeah, once I got a cleanup on the Expos, I felt like the game was going to be smooth from there, because this is a map that favors mobility a lot.
Yeah, you mentioned here the game number 2, the map generation wasn't to your liking here, but I guess it was Nomad, and ACCM was coming off of the victory, of the win for that Wandering Warriors tournament. How did you feel doing Nomad against ACCM?
I mean, I don't mind Nomad. I was just I was really hoping that in one little gap that I hadn't scouted at the back of my maze, I had a gold or a stone, and I had neither, so I was really disappointed. I didn't know what to do, how to approach it. Thank God, obviously he doesn't know that. He doesn't know. If he knew that my only gold was the one that's in the middle of the map, he would have pressured that a lot more. But yeah, I kind of got away with that, but then I still paid for it in some way, one way or another, because having no stone, I see a pike push coming, and my reaction naturally would usually be to take stone, but my stone was just misplaced a little bit as well. So it was just a chain of reaction, right? And he made a really good push. He got to the basically the point where Georgians are just an amazing save, right? You have a full economy setup with 45 charges, and then you monk pikes. All of that is really hard. I think if I was a bit more patient though, and mass Gulam a bit more, maybe I could have taken a fight and won it. But not sure. I think it was close. I think he got 4 conversions on me. Maybe if I wait a bit more or bait conversions with camels, something like that, I could have won that fight. But yeah.
Yeah, we're moving on to, I think this is game number 3, Malians versus Italians on Tide Pool. What did you think about your dock placement? You put them really close together. Was that part of the strategy?
No, I didn't scout him having a dock on the middle. So when I realized he had one, I just needed to rush the second one up. And my villager was right there at the dock, so I just put it there. I didn't think he would go fuel H, fight for water in the middle at that point.
And moving into here, game number 4 on Dry River. It wasn't too often played this this tournament. Going into the civs, how did you feel?
I mean, Romans are one of the best civs on that map, but Dravidians are also quite good. And I feel like ACCM is more of a skirmisher spearman player than scout player. So I wasn't really expecting him to open scouts. I was kind of suspecting men at arm, and I think the reaction was good enough. I just had to hold, and eventually I think Dravidians become a better civ.
Yeah, that clip we just saw with the villager walling in and losing all your skirms there, was that a little bit frustrating for you?
At first, yes, I was like, oh, damn it, I'm getting highlighted on, you know, like that's going to YouTube. But then I realized that he actually couldn't path properly, so my skirmishers, I think, got a lot of value at the end. I killed I think I killed 2 vills and a few skirmishers, a lot of damage on the scouts, and gained me time to remass another army. So it wasn't the end of the world, it was okay.
When you dropped this castle really forward on ACCM's base, did you know that the game was yours?
Yeah, I mean, I knew the castle could be a throw if he had like 2 mangonels prepared there, so I was a bit afraid of that. But I wanted to push my advantage with early imp, traps, and arbalest, basically. That's why I went for that.
Oh boy, okay. Game number 5, I think definitely the highlight of this set. You came forward with the towers. I think ACCM had some not the best tower placement on his end. But I just wanted to ask, after you reached castle, you went immediately for a second town center instead of a castle. How did that play into your strategy?
Well, I feel like if I want to beat Turks, 1 TC is not really the way to do it unless I have a forward castle on him. So I was like, okay, like he's going to make a castle, I will make a castle. I can try to match his timings with Malay bonuses, but have more economy, and then hopefully hold his initial push, and then hope that my economy carries me. And I almost didn't, like it was so close.
Yeah, this clip here, especially when you lost that castle, what was going through your mind? How were you going to come back from this little defeat?
I was like, oh shit, I didn't gain enough time. You know, I still needed time to get to some expo with Bracer. To deal with this push. So yeah, I was quite worried. I thought I was dead, honestly. But I was looking at the score, and it was still kind of even, so I was like, okay, he's definitely 1 TC. So if I just manage to clean him up once, I should have a good chance, and yeah, it happened. And
then you decided to go into the monk switch, and all of those monk techs came in. Would you say that the monks with redemption and block printing was your key to victory here?
Yeah, they're like a key part of my army composition. It's my best way of dealing with his units. Till he has Hussar, I basically get a lot of value on every monk I make. So yeah, if I was able to pair those up with a few expo earlier, I would have been in an even better spot, I think.
Well, it was just like this last game especially was going back and forth, and it was absolutely a joy to watch. And I have to congratulate you one more time on a great victory. I know the first 2 days didn't go your way, and I know that this third day victory means a lot for you. Would you like to say anything else to your fans, to your friends and family watching, your training partners?
Well, always shout out to my training partners, and I think my family is watching, so hello to them. Yeah, it was just a super exciting set, I think. I'm hoping the viewers enjoy that. I don't want to go through something like that again. Like the roller coaster of emotions through a single set is crazy, but yeah, really happy to get that win because it's really important for my progress in the tournament, I think.
Well, again, absolutely well played, and congratulations on the draft pick, on the victories. Do you feel more confident now going into game days 4 and 5?
I don't really know who I faced, but I feel a bit better. Like being down 0-2 was raw fundamentals. You know, I just needed to get a win, and yeah, we got it. So I'm happy. I'm relieved.
Perfect. Well, we're going to wish you the best of luck in the upcoming days, and we'll look forward to seeing your matches. We'll say congratulations once again.
Thank you.
And we're going to throw it back to the caster desk for set number 4.